Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of the Outlaw Nation Show here on the Outlaw Nation Network. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, and I'm excited to have you all here tonight. Look, I'd be remiss before I start the show not to mention all the stuff that's going on over the last few hours. Certainly, that's something I've kept a watch on. I'm sure all of you watching here have kept a watch on. You know, we've gotten the verdict. It has come through as guilty on all three charges, and most people, I think, around the world, around the country, feeling happy about the verdict and now thinking, what's the next step? So, just want to say that I express my joy and my happiness that has been the end result of all of this, and hoping that this signals the dawn of a new era in our country and in the relationships between the police and the communities that they police, hoping that this is just a very positive next step forward. So much has been changing in our world. So many people have been listening finally to a lot of disenfranchised communities, and I think it's an awesome thing. And I just wanted to start out the show by saying that, and I'm sending all my love to anybody who's been affected by all of this over the last few months and is even more affected now that the verdict has been rendered. You got my love, you got my heart, and you got my soul as you process all of this and put it in proper context for yourself in your life and historically in our world. So just wanted to say that to start off with. Hope you all are doing well. You know, aside from that, hope your week's starting out well, where, it's Tuesday night. Some of you are getting vaccinated. Some of you are half vaccinated. Shout out to you. I am with you in the half vaccinated pool. I'm still a couple of weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away from being fully vaccinated. And I heard that after you get the second shot, you still have to kind of stay away from people for a couple of weeks. Then you can start hugging everybody, hanging out, sitting in the same chairs, doing all those kinds of things that you did in the past. But I wouldn't advise that. Just saying right off the bat, I wouldn't advise that. But yeah, there it is. Here's the deal, Outlaw Nation. We're having some fun this week as well. We had a couple of trailers drop. I just recorded a Ted Lasso trailer, season 2 trailer reaction with Shannon McClung, who did the reviews of season 1 with me. So we're going to be dropping that sometime tomorrow morning. And then the Shang-Chi trailer dropped as well. I'm doing my own trailer reaction. Yeah, I'm a couple days late, but I do things on my time. That's why I'm the Outlaw, because I don't follow the rules, damn it. I'm doing the Shang-Chi trailer reaction on my time sometime tomorrow. Also, Geek Buddies dropping tomorrow as well. And then Thursday, Impolite Truths, we'll be talking about the Derek Chauvin verdict there with Dorina Arellano as well. And then Friday, I will not be on SEN Live Friday. What I am doing is I've been asked to be a pundit for this awesome thing that they're doing to celebrate the finale of Falcon and Winter Soldier. My friend JP Karliak, who some of you may know as a voiceover artist, he's the voice of Boss Baby on this TV series. He's asked me to take part in this event. It is a finale breakdown of the Falcon and Winter Soldiers, being hosted by Nerds Vote, which is JP Karliak and Courtney Taylor, another fantastic voiceover artist. I'll be joining Brian Derrick, Markia McCarty, who some of you may remember from numerous things and also being on Heroes. And that's Friday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. It's going to be an IG live event. So I'll be talking about the Falcon and Winter Soldier finale on there. So keep tabs on that. I'll be putting out the link for people to watch very, very soon as well. But tonight, I'm really excited to welcome to the show to hang out with us for a couple of hours and answer your questions live. Maybe we'll bring some of you in live near the end of the show, but certainly he is here to talk about his life and his career. He's a gentleman who I've gotten to know through the Schmoedown. Obviously, I'd seen his work before, but then got to know him through the Schmoedown. Played against him, certainly had some fun back and forths with him as well. Also got to interview him for one of the films that he has done most recently, Color Out of Space. He was also in the OA. Is it the OA or the OA? I never know how to say that. I'm dumb like that. He was on Unfollowed. He's done a number of things throughout. Been working for quite some time on Fear the Walking Dead as well. You've seen him on TV shows. You've seen him in films. He is now writing and directing his own stuff as well, really progressing into that point. He's a lot of people call him Canada's favorite child. I call him one of the best dudes I've met, one of the funnest actors I've ever got a chance to sit down and talk with, and I'm excited to bring him onto the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please, without further ado, welcome Brendan Meyer to the Outlaw Nation Show. Brendan, how are you, man?
Hey, John. Thank you for having me on. Canada's favorite child. I like
That's
that.
what I heard. Okay, I meant to say Canada's favorite son. That's what I meant to say. So I
No,
apologize.
you know
for
what you were
teasing
saying.
John.
The kid.
Well, he
it's
is
all
the
part
kid.
of
He
it.
is the kid.
It's
He
all
is the
part of
kid.
it. I thought that's what you were going for.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say too, before we get started, I think you said it perfectly, John, about everything with the Derek Chauvin verdict, and obviously I was one of those who was very happy to see, that was the verdict, and that that was justice that was done. And a lot of people used their voices last year, and it's amazing to see kind of proof positive of the kind of change that can make. And obviously it's when you see a verdict like this, it's good to see justice when it comes to murder and stuff. And I guess now it's back to work, making sure the murders just don't happen in the first place. I guess, John, it's a big thing, and
Absolutely.
we've seen that, and that's so, but no, I wanted to mention that too. And add my voice because it just can't be said enough, but I thought you said it beautifully, John.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Are you someone who does like to use their platform when called upon for certain issues? I know some actors, directors, producers, they get really nervous about it. Are you a person who cares about certain things and wants to make sure you add your voice? Do you do charity stuff? Do you do work like that on that end for causes you believe in?
Of course. I mean, it's funny. Just in general, I find I don't use social media as much as some, but I try, in these important issues I just don't tweet every day like so many people. But definitely during some of these things, Black Lives Matter, a couple other moments, I've tried to speak up and use my platform. And certainly anytime anyone comes to me and wants me to speak about something, and, we've my family has always been really supportive of different things. We have a charity, One International, which is this school in India that we've supported for years. And so, my mom and my dad have always been involved in different causes. So they've always been an inspiration for that. So, I try. I mean, I always want to, use my voice as much as possible. But I mean, I think I could probably do more. So, I mean, I'm excited to keep doing it.
Couldn't we all? And you got, it's incredible because you're still, some people might forget this, but for all the stuff you've done, you're still a young man kind of processing the world, figuring out the world, building your own knowledge about the world and where you stand in it. Have you found that things have been changing for you over the last couple of years as all this stuff has been happening? Have you found yourself a little more kind of like in tune, maybe aware of this a bit more, and then happy to see how people have been responding to these causes as they've been brought up and marched about in our world?
Yeah, of course, man. And it's things like the Black Lives Matter movement. It's Me Too. It's all these things. We've seen this kind of wave of things in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years that has been important. And it's been important to just take it all in and listen. And there's always a deeper level, especially when it's a cause that if I'm not Black or I'm not a woman, it's like there's more. Even though I'd like to think that my heart's always been in the right place and I've always had the right idea about those kinds of things, there's always more that you can know when it's not literally your experience, right? So I've just been trying to listen and hear and then adapt, because there's always more that you can adjust, and when it's not your experience, you have to be educated, even if you hopefully are doing all the right things, big picture.
What's this year been like for you over the last year? With COVID shutting some productions down or putting things back. What have you been doing to kind of fill the time, or have you been consistently working, even though the COVID situation has kind of affected some productions? Have you found that you are still working consistently enough, or have you found something to fill the downtime in between productions on an unusual year like this?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. I mean, the main thing for me was just that I which was not a bad thing. It was nice as a change of pace, but I spent a lot of time back up in Canada with my family. Actually, I spent like 10 out of the last 12 months back in Canada. I actually did work there earlier this year on a show called Tribal, which is on APTN, and hopefully we'll get American distribution soon, but it's a really cool Canadian show. And I was able to do that. So that was great early this year, but there was a lot of downtime, John. There was a lot of, especially at the beginning, because there were no auditions even at the beginning. There was just nothing. But it was good. I just, got back to hanging out with my family and it had been a long time since all four of us had been together. We were really close. Yeah. We're a really close family, and people would come and visit. I mean, we've been together maybe for a couple of weeks of Christmas here and there, but to be together for 3, 4, 5 months was, when I was, and I guess we'll get into this, we talk about the career, but when I was 16, I booked a show called Mr. Young in Vancouver. Yes. And me, my mom, my brother moved there. My dad, of course, he still works. He's an optometrist. So he had to come back and forth. He couldn't make the move. Right. And we've kind of been on the road since then. We were in LA for a bit. My brother did some cheerleading down here. He's a competitive cheerleader. So we were doing that. for a while, and then of course I stayed once he was done with that, and he went back, and so it was kind of a surreal. That was like the main thing, is this very kind of like surreal thing of finally getting this sort of like other chance to kind of all just be together in the same space. You know, we're still a unit, and obviously with technology, FaceTime, and all these things, you never feel disconnected. But it was amazing. So that was the main thing, and just you know, trying to keep busy with different, like, that's right, trying to do the writing stuff, and did shoot a short film here during the quarantine that I wrote and directed, which was cool. And then Schmoedown, man, that was an awesome thing to have. You know, I'm so thankful. I mean, it was so great last year when it was in person and everything, and I was you know, threw myself into it fully. But then this year to really have not as much going on, certainly no physical in-person auditions and things like that. It was a wonderful pursuit to have, you know.
Well, it's the excuse to watch more and more movies.
Which I was able to do. That was I certainly watched more movies, even as someone who is a huge fan. I certainly watched way more movies last year than I think ever will probably never be beaten, honestly.
What did you find that you were? What surprised you about watching these movies? Was there a director you found yourself kind of being interested in that maybe you'd not been interested in before? Was there a movie, or were there a certain type of movies that you were finding yourself diving into deeper than other genres as you were doing this last year?
Yeah, you know, the main thing that came out, I think, of last year was I got to go back and rewatch a lot of stuff. And for a long time, but for me, and it's funny, I especially, you know, I was living on my own. Probably been living on my own since 2016, and you know, when I was, I a lot of time I would just like always just want to watch something new, and I would not revisit things. And you know, I mean, obviously I've changed my opinion now, but I remember being very young and naive at like 17, and I was into movies then and being like, you know, man, why rewatch a movie? Like, I've seen it. Like, there's so many. You know, I got it. And of course, it's amazing to now just be that little bit older and go, oh my gosh, I can watch a movie that it's been 10 years and have a radically different. Response to it, and it's kind of amazing, both positive and negative. But it's been cool just being with family, you know, and like, you know, we rewatched all the Lord of the Rings films, we rewatched Matrix films, which actually I'd never seen the second and third one for those, but rewatching, you know, Heat and you know, all Gladiator, all these different movies, and going back, these kind of things that are fun with a crowd. You know, it was fun, and so getting to watch those, you know, as a family, was really, really fun. So it's great. But I've been diving into all kinds of different stuff. I'm trying to think this year. I've caught up on some Robert Altman that I hadn't seen this year that I really liked.
Interesting.
Which is cool. Yeah. Some of his films like Images and California Split, I think they're pretty available on the Criterion channel now, or I can't remember where I saw Images. But I've been getting into all kinds of different stuff. I mean, that's kind of what I love about the Schmoedown, is that it covers so much.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like, and that's what's fun about Schmoedown, using it as a guide, you know, like, and I guess I shouldn't go too much into different things, but I definitely try to, if a category's in, I'll try to watch the big movies, you know, and like, for instance,
of course.
Like Nora Ephron, I was added last year. I was like, you know, I've never seen Sleepless in Seattle. I've never actually seen it. I know it. I've never seen it. I've never seen You Got Mail. And so I watched some of those, and then I actually got a Sleepless in Seattle question against Alonso, won me the match, which was crazy, which has never happened. I know. You always want, and it was, oh my God. It was totally surreal because it's true.
You can study 75 hours of trivia, and maybe one question will show up during your
it's
match.
Never happened again. I mean, it's like, and the thing is and the thing that really sucks is, I can tell you right now, I miss questions about movies I've seen all the time, where it's just been like too many years or a pocket, you know, it's just been like too long. It's too specific and it's been too long. So that's what's frustrating. I mean, I can tell you, there's so many matches where I'm like, not only did I lose because I missed that question, I've freaking seen it. Like, it's not even.
No, it's the worst. And that's how you know you're becoming a veteran of the Schmoedown, when you have those moments. You're like, I should have known that. What? I don't understand how that escaped my mind.
I know, because I feel like there was some stuff early on in my career where a lot of times I would miss just because I hadn't seen it. Like, I'd be like, you know, I've never seen that movie, so I don't know that. And then it's like last maybe like few matches, there's definitely been a few where I'm like, yo, like, I saw that movie 2 years ago. Like, this is awful. But sometimes when it's plot specific or an actor, it's just hard. You know, you don't know what you don't know. Like, that's what's so fun about the Schmoedown. You can spend all this time trying to learn all this stuff that you think you need to know, and then they'll hit you with something. You'll go, oh my God, I never thought I didn't know. I never thought I didn't know that.
I think the worst is when you hear the questions in another match that you studied for. Like, you study these questions and you had them ready just in case, and someone else gets those questions in another match. You're like, how the heck? You know, you get so
then
frustrated.
then they're gone. I remember there was that one because I remember it was like Independence Day. I remember watching that, and like I watched it with Schmoedown on the brain, and I was like, it's a dolphin ring. And someone did get that. And I thought, oh, I was so ready. I was so ready to get that.
That's true. That's how you plan ahead, for God's sakes. It's true.
But then there's other stuff, you know. It's like, you know.
What do you think you are now as an actor, Brendan? Obviously, you've been doing it for so long, as you said. You booked that role, Mr. Young, so early in your career, and you kind of built from there and been a recurring character series regular, a guest star, been a part of an ensemble piece, part of an integral part of a movie as well. Like you've had so many different experiences. Now where you're at as an actor, and you go back, like you said, you're rewatching these other films. Is this something you're taking stock of about yourself and your career, where maybe there's a new thing you want to start pushing towards? Maybe there's a new type of movie you want to do, or do you feel more called to write and direct at this stage in your career more than anything else?
Yeah, it's fascinating, John, and it probably more to do with the pandemic than anything. But I do kind of feel as if this is like a stopping point for me in my career, and not in a bad way. In like I can take stock of kind of what I've done, and like you said, I guess that's one thing that I do feel is interesting when I look back over the last 10 plus years. Is I've definitely been in all the different spots. I've been in stuff where I've just been the guest star and just come on and been there for a minute. I've been part of it, and it's so and it's great because I like to think that can help me interact and maybe when I'm more integral, more sensitive when people come on, to make sure it's a welcoming situation and make sure it's a good thing. And then when I'm in a small part, I don't feel need to push my agenda either. I can come in. And so, I enjoy kind of having all those different experiences, different, I guess, numbers on the call sheet and stuff. But as I take stock, I mean, I'm so fascinated now by, obviously as an actor, I'll never not want to do that. But as a writing and directing something that's kind of started to pick up in the last couple of years, just in small ways. I directed a short film in 2019 with some friends in Canada called Home Again, which was really fun. And then I just did one this fall, or this previous fall, with some friends here in LA called Delivery, which I should be finishing up at the end of the month, actually. Just the sound mix is the only part that I have to do. So it's been great. I've just gotten a little bit of experience, which is great because when I have these big dreams of directing and moving into that, you have to start somewhere and you have to get better.
Right.
And it's been great to kind of do these two shorts, which I'm proud of, and working with people that I really, really liked. And people were very supportive and helped out. And it was just great that it's less theoretical now. I kind of have a little more experience now. So as hopefully I'm writing some stuff. I'm actually adapting a Canadian play right now.
Oh, wow.
I'm working on that. Which is really cool. So I'm working on that. So I've got a couple different things, again, it's writing original screenplays or adapting something and bringing it forward is a whole new grind, right? Acting is its own thing, and I have a lot of friends who are just writers and things like that. But it's fun, there's a freedom, to it. I was talking to my friend who's a writer the other day, and he was saying, it's a balance, because in acting, you are always still a little bit at the mercy of fitting the role that's there, and it has to line up, and you have to hit it at the right time and all these things. Whereas a writer, you can write whichever you want. I mean, then of course someone has to take a chance on it, but there's a freedom there. And so, I've been trying, as far as my writing goes, I've just been trying to written a lot of screenplays over the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of them, I feel like I've gotten a lot of the ones that you just throw away immediately out of the way, which is wonderful. And it happens. You have to. I mean, I remember because it was actually when I was doing the OA in New York, which was the first time that I really lived on my own. I had all this free time, and I started to, creatively and start writing different things. And the stuff I was writing then is now totally unusable. But you have to write those things, to even start zeroing in. And I have a good network of people who've been kind enough to read my work and give me notes. And I'm always kind of putting myself in that position of learning. So I've been just trying to do my own little film school here, between doing the shorts and getting notes in the writing, and watching movies what's been great about Schmoedown, is it's kind of forced me to watch all kinds of different films, like we were talking about before. And that, as an actor, it's valuable, but it's super valuable as a writer and director, because you have to know all these different genres, and you have to have kind of an understanding of craft and stuff like that. And the way, I mean, I talking to people, who've given me notes on screenplay structure and all this stuff. And of course, there's also the whole case of with any art, it's like, if you just break all the rules in a singular way, it'll be successful too. But that's not always, that's a very hard thing. You have to kind of also take a look at structure and try to do it right. And so it's been fun, when you watch these sort of classic rom-coms, classic comedies, classic action films, you can really go, okay, what makes a great, what makes a great action film? What makes a great Fast and Furious movie? What makes a great, romantic comedy? Because there's a craft of screenwriting to all these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is fun to examine.
Is Brit? I mean, you mentioned the OA. Is Brit Marling someone you rely on? Because she's like she writes her own stuff, creates her own stuff, builds her own stuff. She's really established her name separately as a writer, director, and actress. So is she someone you lean on, or did you discover that as you were creating these things that you found some kind of kinship here with her as well?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Brit has always been super supportive. Her and Zal Batmanglish too, who's the director of the OA. We're still in contact with them a lot of the time, and yeah, they're so helpful because they are these kinds of great creative minds, and specifically Brit being an actress, right, who is also a writer, and so no, those kinds of people are incredibly inspiring, and getting to work with them is very, very lucky. And there was even I guess it's been a few months now, but even a few months ago, we actually did a little OA reunion call, and we were all on there together, and it was great. It's nice. I mean, it's such a great experience, and that came at a really, in the same way we talk about maybe now I'm taking stock post pandemic. I mean, that OA kind of coincided with me moving out, living on my own. I was 21. I mean, sometimes these jobs kind of line up with certain areas of your life. And so it's in a weird way, because I was homeschooled actually my whole life, even before acting. That was a decision my parents made. My brother was homeschooled too. And it's cool because, it's like, some of these TV shows that I've been a bigger part of have sort of lined up with typical kind of life things. Like when I did Mr. Young, it was like 16 to 18. So that was sort of like a high school experience, It's like I was going to the same place every day and working hard and dealing with people of varying ages. And so, sometimes when I think of that, it almost feels like people from high school. And the OA almost feels like university, like I went to New York, it was a different place, on my own, got my own place, was doing this in a big city. So, and then, I think of all those people as like, that I have this sort of connection with them like you do with people close from university and stuff. So it's weird the way these things line up in that sort of way, Of
course. Yeah. If you can manage to work, it's weird how it lines up to your life events and kind of influences what you're doing at the same time as you might be influencing it and putting your bringing your energy to it and kind of crafting something out of it in conjunction with all the other actors who are there at the same time.
Yeah, and the OA was a strange thing in that way, in that it lined up in that, for people who have not seen the show, the OA, much of what my part of the OA is that Brit is this person who brings this group of young men and Phyllis Smith's character BB-8 together to tell them a story, and they have to really buy in and believe and go on this journey with her. And so much of the first season was that, Zal and Brit had created this thing. They assembled this group of people who didn't know each other beforehand, and we all had to jump in. And so it was really, really, really fun, going back and looking at that. It's an incredible sort of parallel, which isn't always the case, right? There's not always that nice a parallel. You just do a job and stuff. But yeah, that was always really funny. We were all sort of selected to go on this sort of journey together, and it was cool. And being in, we shot that first season in New York. So that's, when no one was really from there. Like none of the group was really from there. So that creates we were all staying in different places, but that creates its own vibe too, right? If you're at home in your own place, you're seeing all your old friends. It's a totally different experience than when you're sort of whisked away, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Very fortunate that that's happened to be done.
Let's take a break here real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. We got about 70 all watching us live. Please hit that like button. Hit that thumbs up button. If it's your first time on YouTube, that's how you know it's a like button. Give it a like and what have you. We also, we'll take your Streamlabs and Super Chats, ladies and gentlemen. Show how much you enjoy Brendan Meyer being on the show tonight. What questions do you have for Brendan? Send them in as Super Chats or a Streamlabs address. It's right above Brendan's head. It's also in the chat. I just pinned it in the chat, and it's also in the description of this video. So send in what questions you want to ask. Look, he's worked with so many incredible people. Let's start asking some questions, have some fun conversations here over the next hour and a half of the show. And as I said, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're watching it later after we've done it live, hit that like button and leave a comment down below. Always good. Likes and comments elevate the visibility of the show and this channel as well. Brendan, the last time we spoke, it was for like extensively like this, was for Color Out of Space. I had just been let go from Collider, and I was figuring out what to do next. I was very lucky to line up this interview with you all. Now, this, the film has kind of taken on a real cult status, life of its own. What is your perspective about this film now? What's it like 2-3 years since you shot it, since it's screened, since it was out there?
About 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, what is your feeling now about this experience working with Nicolas Cage, working with all the people you work with, and Richard Stanley, of course? What do you take from that?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, my perspective on it is still very positive. I guess I should remiss to mention there were some. I mean, we'll touch on it very briefly, but there were some allegations against Richard Stanley that did come out at a certain point. So I just don't want to blow past those. And a Spectre Vision, the people at Spectre Vision, Elijah, Daniel, and Lisa, and Josh, and them kind of made a statement and sort of didn't distance himself from the film, but sort of have distanced himself a little bit from him. And so I just want to, I don't want to have that come up and act like I'm not going to acknowledge that. So
right,
I think
fair enough.
Spectre Vision did what I think was the right thing, and they acted decisively. And so, so looking back at it, I mean, I'm still so immensely proud to be part of the film, especially working with Spectre, working with Elijah Wood and Josh and Daniel and Lisa, and I'm sure there's some other people that I'm forgetting, but they've done some really incredible work in the last couple of years, like Mandy with Nicolas Cage.
Oh my God, what a great film.
It's a great film. And there's nothing Daniel Isn't Real that they did, which was really interesting, which I feel like is a little more underseen than the other, than Mandy was, which was really cool, actually. They did a screening of Color Out of Space and Daniel Isn't Real together, actually, at the Egyptian sometime in the fall, and I got to see Daniel Isn't Real there, and so that was also really great too. So looking back on it, I mean, it was a terrific experience. I mean, working with, again, it was a really special group of actors. I think we talked about this in the interview, but my Madeline Arthur, who played my sister in the show, was someone talking about a way where none of us knew each other, as I was alluding to before. Madeline and I had been friends for several years before we made that, so that was a special experience because we were already really close, and so we got to kind of become closer and work together, and that was really, really fun. And working with Nick Cage was a blast. I mean, he was such a cool guy to get to work with, and he was just so fun. Talk about a movie lover. I think that's what was cool about Nick Cage. That's what I always like to bring up when I talk about him. Cause he was just, his love for cinema was just so infectious. Being around him, and he's talking to the DP. I remember the first day he had these glasses, and he was, going up to the DP. He was like, all right, I'm going to wear these glasses, and it's going to be Straw Dogs, Dustin Hoffman, Straw Dogs. It's so funny, like that. He's so, he's so ingrained. It's like every choice is. And I remember the story I love is there was a great moment where we were talking on set, me, him, a couple other people, and he was talking about Apocalypse Now, and he was like, that scene Apocalypse Now with the helicopters and the fire. And I thought, wow, Nicolas Cage is talking about Apocalypse Now with the enthusiasm of, the guy at your local video store. His freaking uncle wrote and directed it. He knows Martin Sheen. And I just thought that's so pure. That's so great, because so often, as an actor, or as, when you meet other actors, you can sometimes meet people who it seems like, their love of film can sometimes be fully filtered through their own. And I'm not even talking about big actors. I'm talking about any, their whole relation to it is funneled through their own sort of experience of who they are and who they know and what they've done. And, and that's fine too, but you can feel those people, and you're just sort of like, all right, do you love cinema or do you love cinema because you love yourself and you're an actor, but Nick Cage is not like that at all. He was so pure. His love of cinema was so pure. So that was awesome. And it was just so fun. Jolie Richardson was amazing.
Jolie's great. Oh my God.
Got to be in a scene with Tommy Chong where he was, smoking up. I mean, on 420, no less. I mean, that was a fun experience too, which is weird too, because Tommy Chong, I believe his daughter was born in Edmonton, Alberta, which is where I'm from. So it's just a weird, weirdly a weird thing. So I don't know. I just think that's a funny connection that I always thought of. But yeah, so that was a great experience because there's just a collection of people to get to work with, which was awesome.
You mentioned Jolie Richardson. I just saw her daughter in Daisy Bevan in something recently. I can't remember what it was. I was watching The Alienist, and in the second season of The Alienist,
the Dakota Fanning show. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, cool.
And she looks just like her mother, bro. It was like crazy, Brendan. I was like, why does she look so familiar? And then I looked her up and I was like, oh my Lord. So I've lived long enough that Jolie Richardson has a daughter that is, I remember Jolie Richardson was a young actress and I was watching her all the time when she was the daughter of a famous actress. So kind of crazy. Yeah, all of that for sure.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. You know, I was looking at some of the stuff. Also, you work with Molly Ringwald. Did you have any conversations with her about film or about 80s film, about John Hughes, anything like that on set when you were or is it just all about the work with her?
No, we talked a lot about different things and about how she navigated that stage and
Oh
because
yeah,
she's someone
you being a young actor, right?
Yeah, and of course I'm not as successful as Molly Ringwald, who few are at that age. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, just the way that she sort of talk about how she sort of navigated that, because she's someone who didn't get into a lot of trouble, and who didn't get kind of derailed by, which again, and it's not to say that obviously it's a challenge for anybody, but yeah, no,
sure.
Molly was another one that was so great to work with, and was so ego free, so easy, so much about the work while also being so fun to get to spend time with. And I think what's really cool about Molly that I realized, getting to work with her, because obviously, I've always been just a big movie fan, and so I know who she was and I knew her films.
Right.
But I was struck by how much, almost like so many of the people around my age, I remember at that time, and I was like, I'm going to this movie, Molly Ringwald. And they were like, oh my God, Molly Ringwald. Oh my God, I love Molly Ringwald. And I realized that, and these people my age, and I realized like, wow, like she is fully as iconic among young, young men and young women of my generation. Like her those films and her as an icon have totally endured. In that way, because and so it was she's still such an iconic piece of cinema and still is doing great work. I mean, that movie that I did with her, All These Small Moments, she's incredible in the movie. Definitely, if people haven't seen it, should definitely check it out, because she has a great role in it and she's fantastic in it. It's a really, really great role for her.
It's fantastic. You have done these kind of conversations, it's kind of guides and where you're going. Because you seem like a genuine. All the interactions with you, genuinely nice guy. I can't see you, whooping the shirt off, sitting on top of a tower, drunk as hell. It's a different vibe you give, I imagine. I'm sure you let it rip every once in a while, but I'm sure it's not necessarily in your nature. Overall.
Look, I have fun in a good way, not in not in an out of control way.
Not a crazy.
Certainly had some fun.
You're talking about I'm sure you have. You're talking about these directors. You talk about these people you've worked with. Is there, as you've been discovering film and kind of progressing yourself as an actor and as a film lover, is there a director that is like your favorite, like the one you go to all the time, like when you just kind of really want to reappreciate what you do for a living, reappreciate the power of cinema? Is there a director that draws your interest that really kind of makes you keep coming back like a moth to a flame?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who some of the favorites are. I mean, I'm such a big Scorsese guy. I love him, and I love what I love about him is he's so varied too. Because I love the stuff like Taxi Driver and The Irishman and these things. But as I've watched more of his stuff, I love After Hours, and I love Al Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Like he's The Age of Innocence. Like I think why he comes to mind is that I love crimes. I actually love crime films and those types of things, and mob and cops and robbers and those things. I love those kinds of films. So I like a lot of the big famous Scorsese ones. But as I've sort of like gone deeper, I've realized that he's had so many different successes in different genres that I also enjoy. And so I think sometimes people think of him as a crime filmmaker, which he's obviously not. When you dig that little bit deeper, you see that he's made all kinds of different things. He's made things that are funny. He's made things that are, something After Hours sort of funny, and Age of Innocence is sort of this costume drama that's also very, very well made and excellent. Yeah. And so, I love him. I rewatched some Nolan that I really like this year. Like I've rewatched Inception again recently, which I think is really, really great. Yeah. And so I love him. And yeah, like I said, I've been watching some and then some Altman recently as well, who's someone that I'm really starting, because he's similar, and that in just this year, I watched this film Images, which is about this woman who's sort of slowly losing her sanity, and it was very trippy, and then also California Split, which was sort of this character-driven buddy comedy, and Nashville and Gosford Park. I mean, it's like he's so. I think I gravitate a lot to these kinds of filmmakers where you can't really pin down a genre. I think those people are really, really interesting. It's so cool when you can see these filmmakers who seem to be able to move seamlessly between genres. You can't quite pick, because there's some filmmakers that are great for the exact opposite, right? Where you watch the movie and it starts and exactly this is their movie, and you love that about it. and they're so singular. But then I also love those sort of almost like a great actor who's a chameleon in that way. I love those directors who can be almost chameleons, and they're constantly sort of reinventing their filmography, like an Ang Lee or something like that, that makes these, stuff, can make all these kinds of different things, whether it's Crouching Tiger or The Ice Storm. He's constantly sort of, you're like, wow, these are very different films. So I love that kind of stuff. So
it's a great point. His whole film that came out. Right,
Hulk,
Sense and Sensibility. This
Sensibility is a big one too. Yeah, that's completely
Brokeback Mountain. You're like, where are we going? Where are we going? Billy Wilder kind of is the one I always think of, because I mean, from Double Indemnity to Some Like It Hot to everything in between, it's been incredible to see what he was able to do as a director. It never really kind of pinned down to one genre, successful in multiple genres.
Yeah,
so that's a great point you bring up. It's not easy to do as a director in Hollywood at any decade. So the fact that you can for numerous decades says volumes about your abilities for sure.
Yeah, no, I just watched Styling 17 recently, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I had Paul Oyama actually had I knew what it was obviously for years, but he was the one that actually had been like, hey man, this is an amazing film. You got to bump that up on your list. And I was like, oh great. And I totally thought it was fantastic. So yeah, no, I love that. And I love, I was thinking about that now that you talk about directors. I love John Huston from that era too.
Oh yeah.
Because my favorite guy, of the classic era has always been Bogart. He's like the one that, for whatever reason, he's the one that when I was young, hooked into him quickly, because it's like there's so much classic cinema that you have to go back and watch, and obviously I didn't start there as a young person, but Bogart I got into really, really, really young, like probably like 12 or 13.
Yeah,
I was watching like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Casablanca, Maltese Falcon. So I watched like all his films, all of his big ones, really, really young. So he's obviously so linked with John Huston as well.
Yeah.
Which I just love, and he's someone who did some great films late in his career as well. I recently watched his last film, The Dead, which he directed with Angelica Houston, which is worth seeing if you haven't seen it. It's very small. It's based off a James Joyce short story, and it's very contained, but it's really well done. And I always think John Huston's cool because the little stat, a good Schmoedown trivia thing. I don't know if they'd ever asked this, but it's I was reading about him the other day, and he's directed his father and his daughter to an Oscar. I thought that's that's such a cool thing. Like I just think that's an amazing bookend for his life. I thought that was so cool.
And also created one of the most iconic characters in 70s cinema in Chinatown, when he was in Chinatown, right? I mean, that's Mr.
Noah Cross, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All of that he was able to create, and one of the best Gandalf voices. If you guys go back and watch those 1970s Lord of the Rings or Return of the King movies, he is Gandalf. He's the voice of Gandalf. That's how I got to know Gandalf, was through John Huston's voice. It wasn't until Ian McKellen I was like, oh, that's the second Gandalf. I've never,
He has an incredible voice, and isn't there?
Yeah,
I don't want to misspeak. Don't people say that Daniel Day-Lewis was sort of like doing him a bit in There Will Be Blood? I feel like that's sort of like the thing I read. That he's sort of like he was sort of doing John, which is kind of fun to think about, but that he was sort of playing in that.
Eli. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. That's actually a really
it's a long time. Like I said, I took a second because it's been so long, but I'm sure. Well, I read a thing there about that too, that like they said that Treasure of the Sierra Madre was like the movie that Paul Thomas Anderson watched like over and over and over again when he was making that film, which is interesting. Which is really an amazing, easily one of my favorites. And again, just one of those early ones. I mean, I've watched it since, and it holds up obviously, but that was one of those early classics that really hooked me.
That's when they tell you to watch. Like, you got to watch it. They're like, you got to watch Treasure of the Sierra Madre. You got to watch Maltese Falcon. These are the ones that jump into Bogart for sure. And you mentioned John Huston at the end. I thought Bogart did some really interesting films right at the end before he passed himself. The Desperate Hours. If you haven't seen The Desperate Hours, that is an interesting little film people need to jump on top of and watch. There's also, I think, The Harder They Fall is another one too, which is pretty. Oh man, that is a watch that will really kind of test you for sure, because he's an ex-sports writer who becomes a shady promoter, and I think they turned that into a Criterion collection as well. So if you're looking to buy some Bogart stuff, Criterion's got you set up for that kind of stuff.
It's funny you bring those two films up in particular, John, because I've only seen those in the last year. So I've never seen, but I've seen both of them in the last year. So it's so cool. No, so that's pretty awesome actually that you bring those up, because I love those, but they're very recent watches for me, so they're very fresh. The Desperate Hours is great. I saw they actually remade it with Mickey Rourke at one point.
Mickey Rourke,
somebody else, but I can't remember who the other two are.
That could be in there in
I'll
the
look
remake.
it up.
Remake slice.
That'd be fun. Well, trust me, this is how it works with Schmoedown, right? I'm definitely gonna be looking up who's in that Desperate Hours remake as soon as I get off with you here. Can't let that slide. Both of us gotta look that up. John.
It's constant. It's constant.
There's a recorded proof of us not knowing who the two people of the Mickey Rourke are. We cannot lose a match on that, John. That is, that is the nightmare. No, that's the other thing mentally about the Schmoedown. It's like I've definitely hit that thing where it's like 1 or 2 days before a match, and you've just got that movie that you have to watch. You're like, I have to watch this now because I've too many times thought about it or discussed it, or now I have no choice. And they, of course, will never ask about that film.
Right.
I actually had that. You know what happened, which was weird, which was just off. It was crazy. Was the day of. Which match was it? I can't remember now which one it was. Oh no, it was the year. So it was when we played Final Exam. It was when we played Final Exam the first time. It was the first time, middle of the year, and it was on the same card as Merle versus Irwin for the thing.
Oh, right.
And that day, and when I was really young, I think it was like a school project thing. I had to like watch a movie and write a thing about it, and I started watching A River Runs Through It, and then had wound up watching something else. And for whatever reason, and didn't wind up finishing it. Not because I didn't even disliked it. It was like it was just a time in my life where I was just slipped away again. And I don't know why, because I had this thought when I woke up that day, I was like, I got to watch River Runs Through It. I said, I gotta watch it. And I was like, it's so dumb. They're never going to ask about River Runs Through It. This is so silly. It is Brad Pitt, and this was, I think Redford's a slice now, but he wasn't then. And I was like, okay, Brad Pitt, like they're never going to ask about it. And so I was literally, and the day of the Schmoedown match is so nervous anyway. It's like, I could barely enjoy the film. You're just kind of like nervous sitting there thinking about, the pending match. And so I'm sitting there, I'm watching it, and I was like, okay. And so we did our match, and then Dan's 5-pointer in that match was about, and my dad, of course, had been around that day, the whole family had, but my dad specifically had been like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, I'm watching River Runs Through It, like I got to, like I'm stressed out. And he was like, all right. And then he was sitting watching the match with me, and they said, in the River Runs Through It, and he went, no, and he lost his mind. And we went, there's no way. They asked a 5-pointer about it. That wasn't to me, but it was close. Yeah. It was like that day in the other match. And I was like, that is eerie. I was like, so sometimes you got to listen. Sometimes you got to listen. Sometimes there's a little voice in your head telling you, you got to do that stuff.
Yeah, this is the game. This is the game. Always, you are always thinking about it. I'll tell you, this is the truth. This year I've never studied harder, and no lie, no harder, because the game is bringing in all these younger players who have been studying themselves, who have been champions outside the Schmoedown and their movie trivia competitions at their bars or in their cities or what have you, and they're coming in with a way better understanding of the game. The rookies are hitting the ground quicker than rookies in the past at larger numbers. I mean, of course, there have been great rookies every season, but the rookies now, the new crop of rookies, a lot of them you can sense, and of course, a lot of them are on the FID Stock Exchange, but you can sense that they are hitting the ground running. They're hitting the ground running, and it's been fascinating. And I'm like, I this is it. Like, honestly, like whatever happens this year, I'm very, very close to hanging up the Spurs and like handing it off to, because there's so many great people who've now come in who can take it to the next level, and it's fun to watch. But to be able to hang with the kids nowadays, or the young players nowadays, you got to put in the time. You can't just rely on what you've watched anymore. You've really got to fill in the stuff you haven't watched. And so it's a whole nother ball. And yes, the mentality of the day of a match is always like, they haven't asked me a Fast and Furious question. I better do a bunch of, and it gets in your head like a worm, and you can't get it out till you do it.
It's so tough because, I always have that kind of eerie feeling the couple of days before the match. I'm scrolling around on streaming, picking what to watch. And you're like, the information is out there. The question I'm going to miss, it, right? You're like, the question that I'm going to miss, even in a win, right? The question that I'm going to miss, it's on one of these platforms.
Yeah.
It's a Google away.
It's somewhere.
There's no way of knowing, but it's here. And that's happened to me where I've watched matches and then I flipped on streaming and I've gone, there it is. The thing that I missed the question about.
Oh my God.
And you're like, there it is. There it is. It's like, obviously I was not thinking of watching that, but like, there it is, Yeah. And it's tough. But yeah, like you're saying, the study is important because, not only because the players are getting better, it just feels like the margins are smaller now. The margin of error. And I remember we've talked about this a few times in, chats with the other quirky mercs and the newer players, and in every league, it's true of Intergeekdom, it's true of Star Wars, it's everything. I was talking to some of them, and I said, studying is so important. And of course, the thing that's tough is, and I feel this way too. And people who have been studying and they go, oh my God, I'm studying. And I feel like I just don't know as much. There's so much I don't know. And I was like, the thing about studying is, you don't really study, when you're at a certain level in the Schmoedown, hopefully you know enough. You don't really study to do well in the match. Like you're going to get most of the questions you're going to get right. Most of the questions you're going to get right. You have to come in with a good mindset where most of the questions you're going to get right are going to be because you already knew it. You never were going to miss it. However, you study for 1 or 2 points.
Yes.
Which sometimes pretty much is everything. So it's a very weird balance where like you're not necessarily studying for the whole thing. You're not cramming in the same way to like do okay. But you miss that. You get that one question. You get that perfect round. You get that. You have that margin where a miss ties it or gives you the lead as opposed to, one. I mean, I've lost so many matches where it feels back and forth, and then you get to the end and you're like, oh, it was just 1 point. Like it was just one. I just had to pick up like one other thing. Not even sudden death matches, right? Because I've had a couple. One sudden death match where it's like, oh, I know you have as well. So it's like, oh, there you really are. Like, oh, it was 1 point. But even other ones where you're like, oh, I was 1 point from, I would have just been sudden death, or I was 1 point from, I would have gotten the distance, or I would have, picked different numbers, or all that stuff is so tough. So yeah, you got to study for those 1 or 2 points, man. And that's the thing, someone your level, right, John? It's like, you're never going to go and like be terrible, but you might need that one extra point. You might need that one if you're playing the best. Like you might need one more.
Yeah, and that's how I have to always be, because I'm almost always playing the best players in the league, just to stay in that conversation or stay at that level for sure. And I just had played Liz
which is awkward.
Shannon Miller. Yeah, she had beaten Bibbs and Chance last year and took Collins to his 5-pointer, in the tournament. So there was a lot going into that. She
played pretty well against Ben too, when she played Ben.
Yeah,
I don't think she played against 5, but she played really well against him. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. And at a certain point, it's very scary because in the Schmoedown, once a player is over a certain bar, they can beat anybody.
Yes.
It's like once you're playing Alicia Shannon Miller, you're like, okay, she's got more than enough in the tank there to get past me if things go my way, even someone as good as you, John. So
she spun Spinner's Choice. It was all there for her to win it or to take it, and you just kind of worked a certain way, so you just never know what's going to happen in the game. And you're right. I mean, then this is what Christian relies on, is all of us turning ourselves into basket cases about it, because no matter, and you're right, what you're talking to the quirky marks, no matter how much you studying makes you feel like you don't know anything, because there's so much more. There's so many more movies, and you just feel like, well, I have no idea. But the point of studying is that so that when the match happens, you feel more confident and relaxed that you've got a lot of information inside of you and you're answering them. So it keeps you kind of sharp. I think more than anything else, I'm discovering the study just kind of keeps me in the mindset of feeling confident that I know what I know. And if I lose on something I don't know, I don't feel shame on that one. It's the ones where you're like, it's the ones where you make the mistake in strategy or make the mistake in not taking a repeat.
Done those too.
They haunt you. They haunt you.
Yeah, no, that stuff is frustrating because there is a lot about the Schmoedown that you can't control. Yeah. There are some things you can. And so when you lose, you feel like you lose on the things that you can. Right. It does not you a little more where you're like, oh man, if I just been a little smart. But it's hard. I mean, I've had a couple matches where I've felt really good about the answer and not gone multiple choice. And as much as I look back on it and feel like it's a massive mistake, it's just as big a mistake when you go multiple choice and lose by 1 point when it, and it's so hard. It's so hard. And you so often only have 15 seconds. So I try, this year in the Schmoedown, in both of my matches, I have which is the exact opposite of not. So, I've lost matches because in the second round, I get asked the question and I'm almost 100% sure this is right. And I just go for it. In both round ones that I've played this year, I've erased the right answer. And not gotten a perfect round because of it in both the singles match against Chance and the teams match. And so that's an example of the first thing that popped in my head was 100% right. And me overthinking it and adding new contexts that sort of jarred my brain. So you never know. I am so hoping that this next time I play, that's all I want. That's all I want is just not win. It's the worst feeling in the world. It is so, and it was the last question too in the teams match this year. Oh, I can't even believe it.
It's the ones you hold on to. When we played Corruption the first time as the Founding Fathers, in the first round, you will see me when they ask that Mars question. I erased Red Planet. I had written Red Planet. I erased it, wrote something else, Mission to Mars, and the answer was Red Planet. And I went against my instinct, and we lost by a point. We would have won the match.
I know,
and it's just like, it's those little things that you're just like, oh my God, why can't I just trust my gut?
It's so hard though, John, because I remember I've had matches, where I needed to erase what I had. Like I've had that happen where I've written something down. So it's always a catch-22 because I know there's stuff where I've written it down and I've thought, oh, you know what? That was my first thought, but like it could also be this.
Right.
But I'm going to stick with what I have, and it's not. And so you never know.
Yeah, it's true. That's what drives you insane. All right, let's see if we got some Streamlabs Super Chats. Ladies and gentlemen, send in some contributions here. Send in some support for Brendan Meyer. Send in some questions you want to ask him here. You've got the Streamlabs address right above Brendan's heads in the chat. It's in the description here. Please send in some support here. And maybe he's got some stories to tell us about working on set with some of your favorite actors, maybe, as we get to certain things. Justin Toner said, hey, John and Brendan, thanks for coming to the Outlaw Nation, Brendan. I'm curious. I know some actors have trouble watching their own movie or TV work. Are you the same, or do you watch your own stuff afterwards? Yeah, Brendan, how are you? Are you the guy that sneaks out of your own premiere? Like, what do you approach this stuff?
No, I mean, I'm okay with watching it. I mean, well, first of all, I like watching it because I do enjoy watching the parts of it that I'm not in as well. I like seeing how the director realized the vision. I like seeing the other actors work. And then as far as myself, I've had to do so many self-tapes in my life, and I have to watch, myself and decide what takes to use. And no one knows better than me how bad I can be. And I'm usually not as bad in this stuff as I have been in countless auditions. But yeah, I remember, it's funny. It goes back and forth. I mean, I feel like a lot of the bigger stuff I've done where I've been like in the theater, I haven't had like the lead role. I think the only movie was I did in that Wally Ringwald movie, All These Small Moments. I'm in like almost every scene. And I remember watching that at the premiere. And I did feel a little bit like, I'm just not crazy. But I did feel a little bit like, oh man, that's a lot of me. And like, I'm sort of overanalyzing. I remember I was like, oh, I remember like kind of, and I was so proud of the movie. And I was so proud of the other work. And I didn't think I was even terrible or anything, but it was just a really weird, I remember that one being a little bit like that was weird. There were people like, that was weird. I get now. I mean, I would never not watch it, but I got it. I was like, that's kind of like, okay. Like that was a lot of me and people were watching, and I don't know how certain things are hitting and if that even worked. And so yeah, I did remember the lights going down and that. I'm like, movies are more fun to watch when you're not in them. They are a little more relaxing. But it's like anything. It's like Schmoedown. It's more fun to watch it than play it, but you want to play it. You want to play it too. So yeah, no. So I mean, I don't have any problem watching it, but yeah, it just depends. It can be fun sometimes, as an actor to compare what you see in the finished product as to how you felt. Because I have scenes where I have days on set where I walk off and I feel really good. I think, okay, you know what? I didn't feel like I was in my head. I didn't feel like I was fighting anything or that I wasn't quite getting to where I want. And then there's other days where you're just like, I don't know, that was a real slog. And I just felt like I was, and so it's fun to go back and watch because sometimes they don't match up. Like sometimes you see the scene you were worried about. And you think, oh yeah, okay, because like they weren't on me the whole time, and they cut to that part, and like I'm fine in that. It's fine. Like and then there's stuff where you're like, I felt so good, and you're like, oh, you know what? That was just, I don't know, like so and that's helpful. I mean, sometimes it's not. It's like Schmoedown talking about it. Different days, different rules. There's no set rule for these things. What's the right thing the right way to approach a craft or a skill or something. One day is not always the exact right way of doing it. The next day. But so that's also something that can be kind of fun and not fun about watching again, is sort of seeing how different things turned out. And so, but first and foremost, I just like watching how the finished product, especially as someone who's interested in writing and directing. It's really fun to get to take a step back and really see what it was, because a lot of times you only have a sense of the tone of something from one angle, from the acting angle. You can't be fully aware of how they're lighting it, how they're framing it, what kind of music they're going to add. Sometimes they give you a note and you do it, and it's only later that you're like, oh, you know what? That was that brought out comedy in the moment that kind of modulated this. So it's fun to go back and watch sometimes.
Right on. Chris Taylor says, kid, how would Nicolas Cage do in the movie Trivia Schmoedown? How would Nicolas Cage do in the movie Trivia Schmoedown?
I mean, my feeling is that he would probably do really well, actually.
Yeah,
Like I said earlier, I think he would do pretty well. I mean, he'd probably use Francis Ford Coppola and Nicolas Cage as two slices. He'd use Coppola a lot. No, he seemed to have a great knowledge of what's kind of a cool thing about him that I remember that I always think is kind of interesting is he said this really interesting thing where he was like, the best, and this is interesting because he was saying the best movie, he was like, almost every movie is better in the cinema, but he goes, the one movie that's better at home on your TV is David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Oh yeah,
which is cool. I thought that was really smart because for people, anyone who watches that doesn't know, it's like, it's about this sort of TV show that sort of gets in your mind. And I thought, oh wow, that's kind of that's a funny story from him that I just thought of that I thought. So he's really insightful guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so right. my sense, I mean, I think what's funny about Schmoedown is kind of like you're saying, John. It's like it requires everyone's going to have those areas they got to clean up. So I'm sure that Nick there's something that he would have to study if he wanted to, compete. But I'm sure he would do great. I mean, it just seems like he has the knowledge of what's going on, and it seems like he's been paying attention. Like just talking to him, it seemed like he likes to pay attention to other actors' work and what they're doing. And so, I think we were filming in February, so he was catching up on some of the Academy screeners. I remember him mentioning briefly he was watching some of that. So I think he stays pretty current. So my guess is that he would know.
Yeah. I think the intimidation factor would be off the charts. Right? I mean, imagine sitting down at the table against Nicolas Cage. I mean, like and he pulls out, and Nicolas Cage probably knows how to play the mind games with someone he's playing against, right? Probably slip into a voice or something like that. What's up? Got to mess with you all the way around, or pull out the Castor Troy performance and really mess with you.
Well, that's what's wild about when working with him too, is he is an improviser as well when you're working with him. I mean, even as an actor, he's throwing different stuff and he's trying different things. So yeah, you definitely have to be prepared because he is doing stuff and you have to adjust. And a lot of it's really, it's great. It's all great and interesting. And so, but so you don't want to ruin any of these things. You don't want to like be thrown off by it because it's hard sometimes for me, as an actor, because it's such a craft to sort of know the lines and know what you're doing, and then also not when someone zigs, you don't want to like shut down or sort of not be malleable to that. So I imagine he'd be unpredictable in the Schmoedown too, but in a great way. In a great way as an actor, he was very unpredictable in a fun way.
I would love him to like do one side like a post-show interview. I would love it if he was like Jen Sturger for one post-show interview, like totally quit. It would be like a 30-minute post-show interview. Like, what were you thinking exactly when this happened? He would have so much interest in it. You've worked with Dan Stevens here on The Guest. Talk to me, Adam Wingard. Yeah. How impressed are you? Whether people like film. How impressed were you to see him go in like 7 short years from The Guest to something like Godzilla versus Kong?
Yeah, and he's doing this. Him and Simon, who wrote The Guest, are doing this new Face Off sequel, which is exciting. As we just talked about maybe those two will intersect there with that. Maybe Cage will make an appearance, but working with him was awesome. I mean, he's an example of someone who I thought, going back to what we were saying before, where, the script for The Guest was great. The experience of shooting it was great. It was clear Adam knew what he was doing, but so much of the tone of what made that movie so great was something that I discovered when I watched it, right? Like the choice of music and just these are the things that you're not hearing on set, right? The choice of music, the editing style, all these things that he does. So I was really blown away from him from the beginning because I had worked with him on the show, and I think that was only his. I mean, he'd done a couple of smaller features, and then he did You're Next, and I think You're Next hadn't come out yet. It was like it had been in Toronto, it had been a big deal, and then they did The Guest in the summer, and it was coming out in August. I think if I remember correctly, we filmed The Guest in like June, July, and then You're Next came out in August. So he was just kind of starting to be in these kind of big, well-reviewed films for different studios and stuff. And The Guest, I mean, he was great. And so, it's been amazing to watch him kind of keep rising and do that. And all the people who worked on that were really cool. I mean, the producers, Jess and Keith, they just did One Night in Miami. They produced that. So and then Simon, who wrote it, as a new movie coming out, I think in like next month, Seance or something. So they were an amazing, and they all four of them, like I remember my initial audition for it, it was just with the four of them. So they were a really great creative mind together, with Adam the director, Simon as the writer, and then Justin Keith as the two lead producers on it.
Right.
And it was really inspiring because that's a while ago now. I think I was probably 18 or 19 when I did that. So I was a little bit younger. And so, yeah, even as I get older, that was a very inspiring, formative thing to kind of be around people working so brilliantly in collaboration with one another and sort of that whole thing. And Adam is a filmmaker who you see has a very clear vision. I think that's why why people want him to bring his style to Godzilla versus Kong or to a Face Off sequel or to these things, because he's such a great filmmaker. But it's cool up close to kind of see how not only is he really smart, that he was collaborating with other people too, and that he was very open to collaboration with the Dan Stevens about the character. And it was cool with the guest because actually right before the COVID lockdown, they did a screening of The Guest at the Alamo Drafthouse here in downtown LA.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was cool. They actually asked me to come and basically be the moderator of the Q&A with Adam, but essentially it was a Q&A with the both of us talking about the whole thing. Yeah. And so it was me and Adam chatting about that. And it was good to catch up with him for a bit there. And it's just, that's what's so cool about that movie, The Guest, because it's 7 years old now, or I guess at that point 6 years old, and it was so cool that there was that many people. I mean, the screening was almost totally full of people, and it's just cool when especially for someone for Adam as the main person, Simon and them, and also myself as being in it. It's cool to see people still be responding to that. And I remember Schmoedown, people were so. I remember that was one of the first things a lot of people would mention. And it's just cool, to years later be like, hey man, The Guest. It's oh wow, it's great because you don't always know. I mean, I've always been so proud of the film, but you don't always. You don't always know what's going to endure, and I feel like that's a classic example. And I'm sure Color Out of Space will be a similar thing as well. It's
1,000%.
You'll just, as every passing year goes by, I mean, I feel like you hear more and more about it, from people, even more so than in an initial release. So yeah, it's fun to, same with the OA. I mean, it's just, these are these things where people sort of, you'll always be hearing from people who are somehow entertained or touched by these things. I think because, there's such a great team.
Do you find yourself, let me ask you this, because I know you've done some more kind of a mainstream fare, but you just mentioned the OA, you mentioned Color Out of Space, you mentioned The Guest. I mean, these are kind of out of the mainstream type of shows and movies. Do you find that your instincts lead you there as an actor, or are you just auditioning for everything, trying to get, not everything, rather, obviously, the things you're picking and choosing, but or do you find yourself kind of drawn to these kind of out of the mainstream approaches to things, and because they spark some kind of curiosity in you as an actor?
I mean, speaking totally candidly, I mean, majority of the time it's just what I am lucky enough to get as an actor. I'm not quite there at the point where I'm being too picky, but I've been as I continue to work and hopefully can, one day have even more kind of, control over what I'm picking and choosing, hopefully one day. I have connected to what you're saying, John, in that these kinds of films have been really special experiences, and they have been, very singular kind of creative people who have been fun to work with, and who have been collaborative and but who have made these sort of singular kind of things. I hope that those are the kinds of things I get to keep doing. I hope that I'm lucky enough to keep doing that kind of work. And so for me, it's more been fortunate than by design. I haven't been turning massive things down just to do these things. These are the things that I've been lucky enough to audition for and get. But I'm very proud of those things, and have been very lucky to get to be part of them. And so I hope I get to do those kinds of things, and I definitely would seek those out, those kinds of things, if I was had even more control. And hopefully that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to do more writing and directing, is to kind of create that environment as well, and it's fun.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I just recently watched In the Heights. I was very lucky to get an early screening of it.
The whole thing. Yes,
yeah, I did. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I can't say too much about it because of embargo and all of that. But I know Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he was being interviewed about the original musical for In the Heights and what they wanted to do with the transition into turning it into a feature film, he turned down a number of overtures because he said they wanted to change it from what it was originally built, and how it was originally built. And the reason I did it is because no one else was doing these kinds of things, and I needed to create it in order to be a part of it. And so it's like it seems to correlate to what you're saying now. Like, you want to create these kinds of things so you can also be a part of it, take some ownership, have your own voice in it, be reflected in the art you're creating, in the stuff that you're writing and directing. So I think it's a positive overall. And as I said, you're still building all the influence. Like, you're still like, accumulating all the influences into an overall singular voice. And I think it's going to be fun to see what you create over the next 10 years, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Yeah. And it's been
anything
fun.
to get you out of the Schmoedown is all I'm saying.
Come on. You beat me when we played.
I don't know if I could beat you now, man. You're more seasoned now. You're more on top of it now. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I mean, actually, what you're saying is sort of connected to what I was saying. Is that just like with Schmoedown, it's like anything, and it's like what you were saying about earlier, anything in life that is a goal that you want to achieve, it always requires so much time, hours put in.
Oh my God.
And I remember, when the Schmoedown was suggested to me and I started watching it, and I because my agent actually, who said, I know, Christian, you love movies, you should consider doing this. And I remember watching it and falling in love instantly. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. This is so fun. And look, I mean, I was going to the tapings, I was watching, I just became a fan really of getting to go. And I thought, oh man, I'm doing pretty well. I'm hanging. I'm not the best, but I'm hanging. I'm good. And then I started playing. And I didn't do as well. Like the first match against Oyama was rocky. Then I did pretty well at the free for all. Then I still would do well. Then I'd have a rocky match against Ben. And I remember that first season, so much of it was me realizing that as much as I loved movies, as much as I knew more about it than the average person, to really hang, to get to a position where I was going to win a belt or something, it was going to take effort. I was going to have to meet it halfway. I wasn't going to be able to, just keep watching the types of movies I'm watching and never study. And I mean, it would maybe, but it would have required so much luck. It would have required so much luck. Whereas, by working at it and watching films for Schmoedown and studying and watching old matches and listening when people talked, when people, the veterans of the game and different people spoke about the game, listening and trying to make sure that I was, absorbing that stuff, helped me to I think become better at the game. And I hope to be able to apply a similar, discipline to the writing and directing, and definitely even this short that I just did, in the fall, I having now taken it and it's just in the final stage of sound, and it's been great to have it and go, okay, now I have this, I can show this along with the screenplay. And then it's also been, valuable to see the ways in which I'm like, oh, you know what, I should have done this differently, or I should have maybe, maybe next time I need to push more of a vision, or I need to kind of be even more rigorous in what I'm trying to do. But I don't know until I show it and get on those. But yeah, you realize when you actually do these things, not only do you get the experience, but you sort of realize what you have to do to get better at these things. And
which is not always easy. It's not always easy to confront the things you have to get better at, I imagine. I know for me it's not. So I don't know how it is for you.
No, it's
tough. Yeah,
it's never fun because like when you have a piece of art like a schmort or a piece of effort such as a Schmoedown match and how you performed or an acting performance, it's like you're always learning. I mean, a funny story I remember is it's like, I as a kid growing up as an actor, was always getting the notes that I was too big and that I was too broad and that, I was too loud. And I always joke that, like, as a person, I do all the things you're not supposed to do as an actor: too loud, talking too fast, moving my face too much. So, like, that was a process. But then I've also, given performances where then it's like the notes, like, I think it's a little too, like, you got to bring it up a little bit. Like, I think it's a little bit like, and then you're like, whoa, dude, I've been working so, you don't understand. I've had to like completely reconfigure everything. I can't go back up.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, but it's so hard, to constantly, it's like the two beakers trying to get them to measure up what, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know what I mean? It's always you're putting it a little bit in, a little bit back, and you're always trying to like find that perfect balance. But it's good. I mean, but it's a struggle, it's like I've, obviously, I have different people in my life. It's like, it's so important to be critical of yourself, but then it's also important to not be. It's like you're always, I've got that advice before where it's like, if you don't want to be boastful and prideful and not see your failings, but also if you overcorrect and you go all the way over here and you don't actually, build confidence and build, you're just on the other end of the spectrum. So I think that's the fascinating thing too about any of these things is figuring out, how to balance those two things, how to have that hunger and that drive to get better and get better in specific ways while also not like just, running yourself into the ground.
It's true. Listen, building this YouTube channel from scratch, bro. It's such a challenge over the last year.
Right.
And I'm so hard on myself every morning, even with all the stuff I have accomplished. It's still so frustrating. I mean, it's difficult. And you go, well, I don't want to, you kind of have to force yourself to do these things so you can fail a little bit so you can get better at it. It's not as easy thing. It's not an easy thing to do. And you're right. Like, oh, this is too long or this is too short, or as you got to balance, you got to find what's the balance. It's all work for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah. But no, I was gonna say, and what you do, John, with the show and with, as also you in the Schmoedown and the acting that you've done, I mean, this stuff as well. But as a just this specifically, the Outlaw Nation Show, it is a craft, right? It's such a craft of like how you direct a conversation, what kinds of shows you're putting on the network, who you're collaborating with. I mean, and I'm sure, you have all these things of like, I should have approached that conversation this way, or I should have remembered to do this, or and so I can only imagine. But I think you're doing great work, John, and,
Thanks,
and so you should feel good about that. And it's you have to remember to give yourself a pat on the back sometimes too. It's such all these things are such a craft, right? Which require that work.
Yeah, I figure you got to put the hours in, just like Malcolm Spellman said. You got to put the hours in. Let's see here. Doug Developer says, "Hello, Brendan. If you landed a TV series regular spot who acts in nothing else, like Ellen Pompeo, but have career stability." Oh, so he's asking you, what would you do if you landed a TV series regular spot and acted nothing else, like Ellen Pompeo, but you have career stability, or would you choose auditioning for various small roles without that stability? What would you choose? I can't imagine the former being fun at all. So Doug saying, I can't imagine being Ellen Pompeo on Grey's Anatomy for 17 years, or however long it's been, as being that fun. But the stability is nice. The status is nice. But then again, you don't really get to go out and do much else. Like, what would you choose between both?
Well, I think for me, and this is sort of a non-answer, but I mean it sincerely, is like, I think there's virtue to both, because I think, at this point in my career, I'm excited. I think it is exciting that I'm not on a steady job and I can explore different stuff and I can see. But at the same time, I want to be an actor. So I at a certain point, you have to be employed and you have to, like you can't, But when I look at something like that, all these situations are what you make of it. So it's like, if you're on a steady show and you're just doing that, maybe that frees you up. I mean, if you want to have a family, if you want to, I mean, that's the kind of situation that maybe you go, all right, as an actor, I'm only doing this one thing for X number of years. But because of that, I now have the freedom to, and I don't know what her situation is, but like, I have the freedom to pick my kid up from school every day, or I have the freedom to be there every night. As an actor, you can be all over the place, and you can even be on a show like the OA, which was first season in New York, second season I filmed most of my stuff in Portland. It was all over the place. And so it all would depend on the situation, in life that I'm in, because I imagine, if I, long time from now, but if I was, having a family and stuff like that, might be a time where you would relish you would be so lucky that, I get to do my job and I have this ability to have a semblance of a normal thing. So we'll see, but it's all very exciting. I mean, it's kind of like I said about the other jobs, I it's just a joke. But I always say, people like, "Oh, you're an actor." I'm like, when they let me, it's like, I'm at this point, I would be so thankful right now. I'm so thankful to do anything. I'm so open, not anything, but for the most part, whatever, whoever will have me, I'm pretty fortunate to do it. And I feel like I've been pretty lucky that I can't think of any time really where I did a job and was like, shouldn't have done that. Like, I cannot think of any, like I never have thought about that. I was just talking that with a friend yesterday, where it's like, maybe you do a job and you didn't like think the thing turned out great, but you maybe met somebody that I mean, even in the short that I just directed, I didn't act in it. I had 3 friends who were in it, and they're all people that I met, through different jobs, that I had acted with them, and one of them had been my friend for years. One of them had been almost 10-year friend. One of them has been like 5 or 6. Another I've known for a couple years, 3 years, 4 years. So, you always meet, and actually I met all of them on projects that were great, but you're still meeting people, all the time. You're building sort of a community of people who are not only collaborators but friends. So you never know. You never know.
Okay. Tushka Production says, with the flood of rookies being able to join the league since studio matches are not required, what do you think will happen next year if live events and studio matches return? Brendan, what do you see for your future in the Schmoedown? Let's go, Mercs.
All right, let's go Mercs. There you go.
Snuck that right by me, Tushka. Son of a bitch. You snuck it right by me.
Here, John. You just say, let's go Mercs out loud. I like it.
Well, if you pay, I say
somebody clip that. Somebody clip that. Add that to the entrance music. I guess it'll be interesting. I mean, I think what's been interesting about the Schmoedown in the last couple of years, since I started watching, is that this incredible sports framework has been built, and this feeling of, which is amazing for the show and fun to watch, but this framework has been built where there's a set number of people on a roster, and you have to make it, and so that's what's crazy when I think about going back to studio matches. Is it's like, what's going to happen? It's like, well, if you get drafted, maybe you'll be able to go to a studio match. Like, it's weird. It used to be a little more intangible, right? It used to be a thing where you'd show up and, you'd have to either audition for Christian or sort of like get someone to vouch for you. And maybe he'd give you a shot when there was an opening, and you would have to then prove yourself. And if you didn't do well, it didn't make sense to use you again. You were on the ropes, or if you just got, whereas now, I mean, it's fully, it's like you have to get drafted. So, and now with FCL, which is cool, but that's going to be all digital, I believe is what they say, right? So that's always going to be the gateway, through into it. So yeah, it's going to be, I do kind of, in some ways, feel bad because it's for the new rookies, because it's even more pressure. Like it was sort of like, but yes and no, right? Because now there is a framework, right? It's less intangible of like, if you play and you lose, you can just message somebody like Koi or Gucci or whoever and say, hey man, I lost my first match, but here's my stuff, and like take a shot at me. I mean, you can actually sort of try to get somebody to take a chance on you. It's not all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with these new rookies. It'll be interesting to see as that develops. And I think they said what my future is in the Schmoedown too. Was that part of the question?
Yeah. What do you see yourself being? Your future in being?
I mean, I hope to just continue to keep doing it. I have no plans to hang up my Spurs, John. But we'll see.
Because you're still young in the game, son. I've never retired. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the only thing that would take me out of it for a bit is, I just speaking about life, I've thought a lot post the pandemic about whether or not I want to travel a little bit more, maybe spend some time in New York. So I have to feel that out, I guess. But anytime I'm in Los Angeles, I'm going to be wanting to be doing Schmoedown. And I don't see myself leaving for long periods of time unless it's for work or for a life decision of trying something else out for fun or for a change of pace. So those are the only things that would ever sort of impede on it. I love playing the game, and I feel also what's great is like last year, I feel very fortunate that COVID didn't totally derail the teams division or anything like that, because winning the belt last year was a massive sort of weight off me, and it
validation.
It's validation, and it extends. I think it extends my. I don't have to extends my ability to do it, because I think at a certain point, like, it was getting stressful. I mean, I can't tell you, John, how stressful it was last year. It was, and I find digital more stressful. I know some people don't. I find it much worse. It's much worse. It's much worse. It's way more weird, especially 5-round teams match takes forever. It takes forever. I think it's such a slick product. I really do think it's still great. I'm not one of these people that thinks the product is. I think the product is great. I think even those 5-round teams match, watching like when you guys play Corruption or any other time I've seen things in the teams tournament, they're really fun to watch. It's still great. But playing it, you used to show up. I compare the 2 times I played in those title matches. It's like when we played you guys at Spectacular.
Yeah.
You get your live. There's a crowd. You're talking to people. You just get on and you just go. It's kind of like a train. It just takes off and you're riding the wave. And then all of a sudden it ends and you're like, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted. But whereas it's so much more drawn out. I mean, when we played Corruption for that belt, the one we won, I mean, that just took and I think looking back on that, because we had a tough loss right after, and there's been other losses, but like that match, I'll always be thankful because that's the only match I needed to win. That's the only one where I look back on it, and I'm sure you probably had that at a certain point the first time you played for belts. That when you won, you had that amazing reaction when you won. It's like, there's some times where you're like, I put a lot of work into this, especially having already lost to you guys. I was like, we've already come once, and we've lost, which was fine.
Right.
That was okay.
First shot.
5-0. We were very fortunate to win the teams tournament. We beat a lot of good teams. We got through really close matches. It was like, if it's not meant to be, that's fine. And even if we'd lost that first match against Final Exam and had to work our way back through the tournament or who's about, like, it's fine. But that where it's like, okay, no, now we're right back here.
Yeah,
we have to close. We have to close the deal, especially when it's teams. Someone with Bibbs, and he never won the teams belts. Like, we have to close it. And I remember being so nervous before the match, and I thought, I love the Schmoedown so much. It's brought me so much joy, but it's going to be awful to lose again. It's like, it's really not. And like most of the other guys, like Chance and Paul had already won belts. Like a lot of the guys who had come up around the same time as me, who I know had put in a similar amount of effort and passion, had not done it, had already done it. And so I was like, oh man, like I feel like I need that one little shot. I want to know how that feels. What it weighs. I want to know what it weighs. And because I never touched it, obviously I was superstitious. I never touched it, but
right, smart. I did that. I did that all the time.
I'm not touching.
Never touched the belt.
Never touch it.
Even when Christian would hand me in the first couple of seasons, he would hand me the belts. I'm like, I'm not touching that thing.
No,
I'm not touching until I play for it. Yeah.
No, and it's fun. It's fun, and it's a satisfying thing. I remember, it's like when we played you set it down right at my feet. We were at that table, and I thought, oh, it's right there, there, and I didn't get to pick it up. So it was great. It was so great when that.
That's all a haze. That game. That game was a haze.
I know you were.
I was so dead.
I know, which was amazing. That was part of the amazing thing about that whole moment, though. Being part of that, but that you kind of came out and were able to do it. But yeah, that was the only one. I was so nervous before that match.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's great. That's good.
And it was just nice because I even like I said, next loss was really frustrating. We were way up. I felt like 9 times out of 10 we win. They were just some unlucky questions, and it was a bummer. But at the end of the day, like I could live with it. Whereas I just don't know if I could have lived with it. I probably could have, but I don't think I think it would have taken away. So this has been a long-winded way of getting back to the question that now having won a belt, I feel a little bit more loose. I still want to win it again. I still want to do a singles run. I still feel I have one good run in me. I've never really gotten going. In singles, I'd like to, but I feel a freedom now that there's at least a little bit of that. It makes it a little bit easier. It'll never be as stressful as it was that day. It never will be again. It just never will be.
Right. Once you've been a champion, it allows you to relax. It allows you to put yourself a cut above so many others that have come before you and so many others that'll come after you that might not win a belt. And so there's just a separate club for those people who win belts. And for me, what you said, like beating Dan was just like, I had a swagger that day that I was not going to be beat. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it came inside my body, but I just had this feeling I was going to beat him that day. And so I was so I was on it. But beating Bibbs for the title, that's the one that mirrors what you felt against corruption. Like I needed to win that second time because I lost the belt so quickly against Riley the next time. I needed to beat Bibbs to validate that it wasn't a fluke that I beat Dan. So I needed that win, and it was a damn good match, and so I get it. I absolutely understand, and so
and I feel similar too. I mean, that's certainly a drive. I would love to, because we didn't defend. I would love to validate and win it again, or I'd love to win it again at some point. So I hope that I get to win it again. It's just more of a, it's kind of like you're saying. It's like I'm a huge golf fan, so it's kind of like I feel like winning a belt. It's sort of like winning. It's like once you've won one major, it's like the ones that people that have won 4 or 5, which is like winning a belt and defending or winning it again. I mean, obviously, the more you win, the more your legacy grows. But once you got that one, that's good. You got that one.
Puts your cut above. Yeah,
it just helps.
Yeah, agreed. Aaron Klister sent in a very kind donation. Thank you, Aaron. He said the kid has landed. What's up, Brennan? Question, and you can take this any way you want. He said, for you, Bud, what was it like working with Sir Nicolas Cage. That's what he says.
Sir.
Aaron's a massive fan of Nicolas Cage. So I think he's been waiting to send this question in.
Of course.
I know you've spoken about it earlier on the show, but is there anything else, any other way you can describe or a new path in describing how it was working with Nicolas Cage?
I'm trying to think because I feel like I've said a lot of the stuff, that was the most impactful, whether it's, that the sort of fun of his improvisation and his love for the craft and stuff. He was just,
Did it change you?
Very nice
Did
guy.
it change you as an actor? Did it change you working with him? Like, did you pick up tips or did you see things that he did that maybe kind of you might use later on and put some tools in your toolbox in any way?
Maybe. I think the thing, if anything, the thing that was interesting to watch him was that he was very free. He was willing to do different stuff and give different options and things like that. And then I think also, so I think it's two things where I think he was inspiring in his freedom, but also, like I was saying about the Straw Dogs thing and different things, a lot of what he did, and I think there's a great article that he did where he talked about different things that influence him or there's videos where like a lot of what he does, a lot of the choices that he will make, the voices that he will do, are him referencing some kind of thing. It's like you watch like Vampire's Kiss, which he talks about, where he's a vampire and he's making these crazy faces. And if you watch it with no context, you're like, what's going on here? Like, this is insane. But then you realize that, I remember reading an interview and then looking up that he's imitating Max Schreck, the original Nosferatu. And you go, oh, okay. So all he's doing is he's taking the iconic original movie vampire, and when he turns into a vampire in Vampire's Kiss, he's acting like the first guy to play it like makes perfect sense. You're like, that's actually, so that's what's fascinating about him is he can feel very spontaneous, but so often comes from a sense of inspiration or homage to something or something like that.
Well, you could also argue, Brendan, he won an Oscar. That's his belt. And now he can be free to do whatever he wants to do after winning that Oscar. Maybe it's correlative.
Right. There you go. Yeah, no, that's true. I imagine that's a similar feeling as an actor, because I think it's a similar thing where it's like, I always think about, I think what's cool about the Oscars, because it's like, I find it so interesting in that, specifically, like that's so like, it's just an award and who is the best actor. I agree with a lot of what people have said about that. Yeah. But I was like, you can't judge a performance and goodness knows, that I'm going to say it on air, but goodness knows there's a lot of performances that have won Oscars that I'm like, wait, what? But that's probably not even good, let alone award worthy. But that's, it's all subjective, right? Because obviously a lot of people disagree. Yeah. But what's cool about that, right, is you get locked into history. Right, there's a history there, and there's a list. There's now a list. Starts, in the 20s and goes, for hopefully perhaps forever. And Nicolas Cage is on it, and that's and he deserves to be on it as for what he's achieved. And I mean, that performance is amazing, so he deserved for that performance. But just in general, even some actors win for different roles. It's like that's what's amazing about that list. So yeah, I imagine that's that amazing feeling that those actors have when you're sort of on that. And that's like the similar thing, with the Schmoedown, where you just feel like, oh, there's a list and, of people who, and it's cool, you even see it with it was amazing, with Andrew DiMolanta winning the Star Wars belt. And it feels to me like these players, because Andrew was someone who was passionate about the Schmoedown too. And Alex obviously is too, with IG and all the stuff that Marling does as well with point of view and all these things. But like Andrew was an example of someone who was so passionate about the Schmoedown overall. It wasn't just that he was a big Star Wars fan, and which is again a noble enough pursuit as it is. And that's why I was saying with Alex, he's not like that either. I'm not comparing him to him, but I'm saying Andrew specifically, looking at him, only him. It was so cool to see him win because it feels like, and it doesn't happen immediately. It took me quite a while, and it takes people, but it feels like the Schmoedown somehow finds a way to reward those who really put the time in. It feels like, and it's weird because it is so random, right? And it is so a game of inches all the time. It feels like it can't be. And yet it just feels like if you put enough time into the Schmoedown and you care enough, it just something happens, it's like what amazing the work that Kevin Smets put in, and then and the work that we know Chandru put in, and these people, you see these people who put in this work, and you see Mara, exactly. Mara's cool because it's cool to see her with the belt because that was like Mara's rise sort of like actually coincides with when I started watching in person. Right. So when I first started coming to the studio to check it out, after my agent had made the connect with Christian and I was like there when like she played Rachel in that crazy match. Like I was there and saw that. And like the first live event I ever went and checked out was the one where she won. So it's cool to see her. Cause weirdly, she was like right there in that early, like when I was actually physically watching.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. And listen, let me tell you, I have always felt that the Schmoedown is a living being. It's a living thing, and you have to respect it, and you have to give it its, how can I say that? You have to pay homage. You have to give it its offerings. If you mess with the Schmoedown, if you fuck with the Schmoedown gods, if you play with the Schmoedown gods, they will betray you in the most critical moments of your game. If you celebrate too early, if you get cocky before the match is over, the Schmoedown has a way of humbling your ass to the ground. And I have always worshipped and respected the Schmoedown for that. So I've always protected it too when people come in bitching about the questions or bitching about one thing or another. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't had complaints at times. Sure, that's the game. But when you're
we all
insulting, exactly. But when you're putting the time in and you show the effort, that energy is a universal energy, and the Schmoedown rewards that universal energy. It does. And so I've rarely seen a casual player win a belt. It doesn't happen, and that's just how it's set up and constructed every year. By the way, every season it's been that way.
And like you're saying, John, no one who ever takes it casually will win again. You know, with the way that the league is now, it'll never happen. It'll never happen again. You'll never.
You can win one or two. You won't win a fucking.
You can win a couple matches. Yeah, you'll never. Like, there's no way if you come into the league now and you. But I hope, there's certainly players I still hope, will get there. I mean, I always think of like a Lon Harris as someone that has been talked about now. With Final Exam was so good, and he just had, he's played really well in different matches this year even as well. So I'd love to see him. He's kind of the one I always think about. I'd love to see him get there. And some of these new people, like Marisol and different people who are coming in who seem to be really ready to take the work. And so it'll be Craig the Barbarian, like these people who have played really well. Craig, it'll be good to see. It'll be cool to see these people. I mean, I'm sure there's a million other people that just I forgot about, but yeah, there's definitely these new people, like people who've been around with Lon or people who've just been there for a season. Who it'll be definitely excited to see them. I'm excited for them to get a little further up. These people who I think are ready to do that similar, like they have that similar drive.
For sure, I agree. All right, Canada Rock says, no way Nicolas Cage remembers all the films he has been in. No human can. All right. I'm sure that's true.
I don't know. He's made a lot of films.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to remember.
That slice, man. They added that Nick Cage slice. That's wild. That's dangerous.
I know. I'm hesitant to take it because it can go in so many different directions.
Yeah.
Chris Miner says, my favorite scene of The Guest is the bar fight. Did you and/or Dan Stevens really drink Tabasco with cinnamon schnapps? If so, what bravery?
Oh, that's fun. That scene is fun. And actually, that was the first scene we shot, which is kind of a wild. That was like the first. Yeah, it's funny because people talk about the scene all the time. That was actually like the first. That was like the first thing that we did, and it took like 2 days. Oh God, it is so long ago now, man. I have no memory of what it was. I don't think it was Tabasco with cinnamon schnapps. I have no memory of what that was. It's been like 8 years. I have no. I have no memory of what was in that. I don't think it was
awesome.
hot. I feel like I remember having to act like it was a little strong, so I don't think it was actually anything to. But I don't know. I mean, 8 months. 8 months. That may have been a big. I'm not sure I remember that's what it was. So I remember yours. Yeah, I don't know. I could have missed that question.
What is your? Oh yeah. And if you got asked a guest question and you missed it, holy shit! Oh my God.
I would just say, if I didn't know it, I would just be like, guys, I can't in any good conscience answer.
Yeah, that's right.
If I didn't know, if I knew, I would just answer it. But if I didn't know,
that's a great cover.
Yeah,
it's not really fair to the other player.
I can't. Of course, I know the phone number of the house, but I can't possibly win this way. I couldn't.
Real quick, I know we got all these questions to get to, but real quick, what was Dan like working with him at that time? Because he's coming off of Downton Abbey.
Yeah,
he's trying to establish himself. He takes a an independent horror film is an homage to the Hitcher in the 80s, great horror films that are smaller. What was he like on the set? Was there a hunger in doing what he was doing to kind of like establish himself with a new identity as an actor when you guys were, or was that not anything that you felt was in his equation or approach to the role?
No, I mean, I definitely think that he because it was right after he'd had this big success with Downton Abbey. He'd become a name, and then he had left the show to pursue other stuff. And yeah, I think there was a sense with him that this was a really great part, and that this was something that he could really show. He could also, it was an American part, like he was playing an American, a soldier, that kind of role that is. I mean, not that he talked at length about it or anything like that, but I think you got the sense that, he was working with a dialect coach. He had been working out, not that he became jacked, but he had really become defined, and he had changed that was not how he had been. He had changed his body. So he had done a lot of work even before, he had stepped foot on that set. He had worked on an accent. He had worked on his physicality. He was still consulting with the accent person all the time. He was still consulting with the trainer. I mean, he was really taking that time. And I mean, obviously that was something he was doing in concert with Adam and with the other people. But I think there was a real sense that Dan saw it as an opportunity to give a really, really great performance at a time where he was trying to continue off the wave of what was a huge role for him in Downton Abbey. So I think he was really, I mean, but to be fair, he wasn't like one of these intense guys. Like he was he was actually very, which was interesting to watch, right? Because he put in all this work with the accent and with the physicality, and yet he wasn't like this method guy. Like he wasn't like in a corner. He was actually always kind of talking as Dan, and he would slip in and out of the accent. He didn't stay in the accent all day or anything like that. He would be out of the accent in between takes or in between scenes. But he was so locked in. Like he had done all that work. He would come. I mean, he was in every take. He was back and he was locked in. And I think it's such a great performance to go back and watch. And it's a transformation, and it's one of those. It's like a total transformation, which is cool. Yeah, but he was great, and you see, I think it's been. I mean, he's obviously had an amazing career since, doing a lot of different stuff. But I imagine it was help. I mean, I don't know. I'm not his agent, I guess, but I imagine it was very helpful. I can only imagine that it was a helpful thing for him, the guest. I guess you'd have to ask him how much of an impact he felt it made, because I'm sure he auditioned for other things and got it on the merits of those auditions. But I can imagine the guest was immensely helpful to him in that transition, because he was just so darn good at it.
And the movie itself overall. Everyone. For sure. Justin Totem says, another question for Brendan. What are some of your favorite classic films from the 1930s through the 1970s? Do you have some classics that you? Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned some. I mean, I'm a big Casablanca fan. That's a classic. I know it's the one. You know what I just watched, which is of that period that I totally flipped for, was A Place in the Sun. Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. That movie is really good and really haunting. And there's something about that movie. It's funny. There's really interesting. If people haven't seen it, I had not seen it till last year. This is like just last year I watched it, and I'd never seen it before. And I was totally blown away. It is really great. And it's, there's elements of romance, and it sweeps you up in these romance, but then it's very dark. And so it's this strange mix, talking about like Billy Wilder and things. Not that this is not Billy Wilder, the director. I think it's George Stevens. I don't know. I got to look it up now.
Yeah. I think it's
look it up for
Stevens.
But I mean, I love the movie, so I like to think that I would remember because it was so good. But yeah, it's a great mix of that. It's not one thing. It's not a noir. It's not one of these noirs. It's not one of these romance dramas. It's this weird mix of the two, and he's great in it. And and there's a really cool thing for people who watch it. There's this really striking thing in it, which I mean, I don't know how long it's been since you've seen it, John, but there's a scene where Montgomery Clift to Shelley Winters delivers some news to her, and it's kind of a tense scene, and the camera stays on the wide and on her back for a very, very long time. And it's a really cool thing to see in a movie of that era. It's very different than what you would normally see. And again, and it's not just that it's not that it's just a one shot. It's that it's not even a shot where you can really see her, and it's more about the air in the room than it is. And I was like, wow, that's cool to see in a movie of that era, because it felt like something you'd see in like, a Sundance indie. They're like, we're just going to hold here in the corner, and you're not even going to see their face when they get this bad news. And we're just going to, which is cool. And you see that in these kinds of American independent films of like going back and foreign film you see a lot, but it was cool to see it in that. So that's one I was really struck by that I really liked. But oh man, there's so many. I'm trying
some
to.
Bacting. There's some
Yeah,
Bacting.
that was cool. Yeah, there's so much great stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Like I said, I just saw Stalag 17, which I really, really liked. I mean, I like you were saying, I love those Billy Wilder, Double Indemnity, Sunset
Double
Boulevard.
Indemnity. Oh my God. Yeah.
All About Eve is great too. I think that's like the same year as Sunset, maybe. Like they're both the same year or something. Which is cool. So yeah, I love All About Eve. I was reading. I mean, I hope that they do that adaptation of the Sunset Boulevard musical with Glenn Close.
Oh yeah, right. The one that got her. Maybe finally she'll win the Oscar if they do it. Let her do it.
Come on, because is she not tied for the record now or something?
For how many nominations without winning? Yeah.
Oh man. Come on, don't do that to Glenn. Come on.
All right, one last question here from the Super Chats. D-Train says, really cool cameo from Brendan Meyer in Kong versus Godzilla. I wasn't surprised to see him since he worked with director Adam Wingard for The Guest. Is this true? Did you have a cameo in Kong versus Godzilla?
Full disclosure, I don't have HBO Max, so I haven't been able to watch the Kong versus Godzilla yet. So I mean, I'm not to my knowledge. No, maybe is there some kind of like scene from The Guest playing in the background or something like that? Yeah. No, I'm excited to watch it. I tried to watch it the other day, and I didn't realize that because obviously I'm not venturing out to the cinemas quite yet. I have my first vaccine shot, as you were talking about earlier. I'm half vaxxed with you, John, which is great. But yeah, no, I don't know. I have to look into it and see. I don't know what he's referring to because I tried to watch it a couple weeks ago, and it was you have to have HBO Max, which I don't have at the moment. But I think you can rent it soon.
Yes.
So I have to see because apparently I'm in it. No, I mean I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge of being in it. Yeah. I don't know what he's referring to.
I did not see you in it. I watched it twice and I didn't see you in it.
So well, I would have thought you would have maybe let me know, John. If
I know. So I didn't see it. Let me know. All right, let's see.
That's the honest answer, man. I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. We've got people want to come in live, and I've got 3 people want to come in live and ask you a question. Brendan, are you going to go with that? Are you cool with that? All right, let's do it. All right, as we wrap up here, we got about 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to send in any support now for having Brendan Meyer on the show, Streamlab or Super Chat, send them in now. We'd really appreciate it, and then we'll wrap up here. Alan Smithy, what's up, dude?
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you guys tonight?
Good. You remember director Alan Smithy? He's done some terrible movies. He's put his name on. Yeah.
That's right. And I always wear these sunglasses to disguise myself so nobody knows what crappy movies actually are. Well, anyway, it's awesome to meet you, though, Brendan. You're in some amazing movies. I love The Guest. I loved Color Out of Space. It was such an oddball kind of thing. And it was actually kind of disturbing to me a little bit. It
is a disturbing film. I remember reading that script. I remember reading that script for the first time. And you're reading it, and then you hit that scene where mother and child have it.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, that's okay then. Okay, all right. I remember reading that first time, being like, all right.
It's great because a lot of horror films kind of die halfway, and you're just waiting for the end. But that kind of moment made it so like a whole nother movie is about to happen.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No,
so right. So Brendan, I saw that you are a Shakespeare fan. So I was wondering if you could play any Shakespeare role.
Great question.
Or your favorite play, and what kind of Shakespeare movies do you like? Not that there's a huge amount of those, but anyway.
No. Oh, wow. Yeah. So Shakespeare was something that I really got into as a young person, and some formative, which I actually didn't touch on. A really formative thing for me is I played some of the young kid roles in the local Shakespeare Festival in Edmonton in Canada, where I grew up. So I played like Fleance and Macbeth, and so to answer your question, the first one that I did was I was one of the princes in Richard III, and the actor Chris Bulla in Edmonton is a really great actor, and he played Richard III, and watching him and do that, I think that's my dream. You know, Richard III is the role that I really want to play one day. Having been in it at a young age, and then I've seen it a couple times. Saw the Rylance production. I was lucky enough to be in New York and saw Rylance do it, which was cool. Yeah. So I mean, that's the one. I mean, there's a lot of different roles that I like. Speaking of Shakespeare movies, I mean, I really like a lot of Kenneth Branagh was someone I got into it a lot. Yeah. I mean, the Shakespeare, the Hamlet, the 4-hour Hamlet, I think is amazing. His Much Ado About Nothing.
Much Ado About Nothing.
Henry V is still one that I go back to and watch all the time, dude.
Yeah. No, that's so good. One that's more under the radar that I like is I really think Ralph Fiennes' Coriolanus is one of the better.
Yes, with Gerard Butler.
Which people don't. Yeah, that's so good, and I feel like it's not been it sort of happened. And I actually I remember it coming out and being so excited and thinking it was great. And then on the local, like Vancouver, it was when I was living in Vancouver that I saw it. Yeah. There was like comments on the site where you look at the movie times, people comment, and there were people who were like, yo, man, this isn't even in English. And I was like, oh my God. Like, these are not. I was like, no. Like, this person clearly had no idea what they were watching.
Yo, man, this isn't even in English, dog.
I saw that. Some guy commented, he was like, yo, Corleone, I don't get it. I guess they thought it was, Jared Ray Fiennes, Gerard Butler.
Old English is not English. It's
yeah,
old
I was like, oh man. But I just like, oh no, this is why this guy should not have seen it. But no, I love that. So obviously all the classics, and then and the Laurence Olivier. So I've never seen the Laurence Olivier Richard III. That's like the big one. That's the next one.
Oh, it's a great one. It's on Criterion. You should definitely watch that. I mean, he won the Oscar for that one. He won the Oscar for that.
Yeah, so. No, I love that.
I don't like his Hamlet, but I like his Henry V because his Hamlet is so affected. It drives me insane.
Yeah, his Hamlet. So long. I haven't
right. He's like, but his Henry V and his Richard III are fantastic. For two, obviously, if you compare Olivier's to Branagh's, those are two different Henry V's because one is about rallying the England during World War II, and the other one obviously is more about the what happened really in this battle and the grime and the grit and what it cost to win at Agincourt. So absolutely. It's great to know you're a huge Shakespeare fan. I am too, brother. I started watching when I was 10 years old on PBS, and my dad, who's a immigrant from Bolivia, he would come in sometimes and go, "What the fuck are you watching?" And I'm like, "You don't understand what's happening here. This is incredible." And that's when I knew I was a completely uniquely different child, that I was into Shakespeare at a young age, and I love the production. Hell, if you haven't seen Fassbender's Macbeth, that is a damn good interpretation. They take all the comedy out of it. It is brutal.
Yes, with Marion Cotillard. No, I have seen that. That's great. I forgot about that. I'm excited for this Denzel Francis McDormand one. That Joel Cohen is doing. That's like the biggest one we've had in a few years, I feel like, unless I'm forgetting something. That's
I think
that's like the biggest one we've had in a while. So, and also, I was thinking Ian McKellen's Richard III. I remember.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that film, right?
Yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah.
Well, his no, spoiler alert, but there's a death scene in that involving Robert Downey Jr. that is.
Oh yeah.
Haunting.
It's very reminiscent of Kevin Bacon's death scene in Friday the 13th. It's very reminiscent with that pole going through the chest. Yeah.
No, Friday the 13th is very Shakespearean. I agree.
First time.
Yeah. I played Macbeth in 4th grade.
Oh, what? In 4th grade?
Well, I didn't choose that. And one of the teachers came up and they're like, "Let me talk to you over here." And they're like, "Life's a bitch." And I'm like, I have no idea what you're fucking talking about, but whatever. I'll just act dramatic,
Wow. Did your Lady Macbeth wash you down after you took off your military outfit, or no? Did they not do that?
They cut that scene out.
No, they're supposed to cut that scene out in 4th grade.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Well, hey, and Rocha, I just want to say thank you because I've been going on the Ultimate After Show a lot lately and meeting people there. I met King Khan this week and McQueenie. I met Sassy Stacy, and she gave me some sass. It was awesome.
Yes, that's the best.
That's right.
Yeah, anyway. That's great. Yeah, the Ultimate Schmoedown After Show every Saturday at 3:00. Yeah, they're a great show. I'm very happy to have them on the Outlaw Nation channel. First show I've got here that I don't host, so it's great to have it on there doing so well. So thank you, man. Appreciate it, Smithy. You're the best.
Sure, and it's great meeting you, Brendan. And I hope to see you in more movies and things you direct as well. So.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's nice to meet you, of course.
Good to meet you.
See you around, I'm sure.
See you, brother. All right, let's bring in a fellow Canadian of yours here. Royko, what's up? How are you, man?
Hi. Hello, Brendan. Hi there. I don't know if you remember, but we met for like 30 seconds in New York.
Yes, I do. I actually do recognize you. Yes, I do.
It's the beard. It's the only thing. And I've been a huge fan. And don't tell John, but I actually rooted for you guys against the founding fathers.
How dare you? How dare you?
I know. I'm out of here. Here's
sorry. Tough break. Wasn't either of our day. We got it back.
But you know what? You made it up for me. You got the belt. You're gonna get it back again in a few weeks. I'm positive about that. Okay, my question is this. So, like John, the TV was my babysitter when I was a kid, right? And when I was a kid, it was just flooded with old movies, old black and white movies, and that's how I got into old movies. Now, how did you get exposed to old movies? Was it like your parents? Because when you were growing up, it wasn't like fed to you like it was to us, right? You had to actually go out and find them, I believe.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of, my parents have always been into movies, but they're not as they're really into it. They're maybe not as obsessive as I am. My grandfather is really, really into movies. My mom's dad, he's like just like I am. It's like if Schmoedown was around, when he was younger, he probably would have been kicking butt. But he was someone who definitely got me into it because he had a lot of old DVDs and things at his house, and but also through TV, through Turner Classic Movies, being on TV. I think that's the first way I saw Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and then a really invaluable thing growing up. I mean, it was just seeking out physical media. It's like you see Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and then you think, oh, I want to see. And I think the AFI top 100 list was something I looked at a lot as a kid, because I saw one of those on television, like the AFI special, the stars and stuff. So I think I used that list as a guide a lot growing up. That's probably why I mean, it's so long ago now that I can't remember, but that's probably why I seeked out Casablanca. And also I had a book. One of the reasons why I always like using the Oscars and the Schmoedown and feel pretty good about my knowledge of that stuff is that I had a book as a kid that my parents did get me because I was really into movies, that had the history of the Oscars from up to 2001. It was which I think I got it a couple years later. So that was probably in that book, that specific book would probably be like the first time I read about, and this was when I was like 6 or 7 or 8. So this is probably like when
that's young.
Yeah. So that's probably maybe a little 6, 7, 8. Yeah, because I've always been. I mean, I guess we didn't really talk about the show, but like my desire to act, mainly it was seeing stage and wanting to do stage, goes back kind of longer than I can remember. Okay. It's like a weird, like I was like 6 or 7 doing like Saturday morning acting classes and stuff. So even then I was really interested in it. And even my mom tells a story, and like she has a picture of it too, where like we went to see like a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves when I was like 4 or 5. It was like a kid's production of it. And I dressed up as a dwarf to go. And she said, "Why are you dressed like this?" And I said, maybe they'll need a dwarf. I don't remember this, but I've seen the picture. And I was like, maybe they'll need a dwarf, like I should go. I always say that was my first taste of rejection, because they did not need one. I was not invited on stage. I was dressed up for nothing. I was not included in the production at all. But yeah, so I was kind of into it at that age. So I think I got that book. They just gave that to me as a gift, from the local store. And that's where I read a lot of those names. I'm sure that's the first time I read Katharine Hepburn or any of the, maybe Bogart, Cary Grant, James Stewart, any of those kind of classic film stars. Wow. I'm pretty sure the first time I would have read that they were actors who had won an Oscar or like been in something, and then then you just grow from there. I rented a lot of stuff from the library, a lot of DVDs from the library. Because streaming wasn't a thing, that's what's funny. It's even different now. It's even different now. It's weird. Like you said, it was different for you guys. It was different for me. Whatever, 15 to 20 years ago. It's like it was a very different. You did have to either find it on Turner Classic Movies or go and buy a DVD.
Yeah, because when I was in the 90s, at the time I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. And I had a friend who worked at a TV station. He had just graduated with a film degree. He just graduated with a film degree, and he essentially put me through 6 months of film school as a friend. And so he would give me a list of stuff to watch, and I would go to the University of Virginia library there, and they had them all on laser discs at the time or on DVD. Wow. And they had separate stations where you could sit and literally watch movies all day for free. So it was crazy. And every time I had a day off, and I used to have 3 days off a week, I would at least take one day and watch a bunch of movies, just like Brendan. I'd take them off the AFI. I'd, kind of check them off and stuff. So those things serve as a good barometer. And then from there, you spring forward and start to find your own taste. So you're absolutely right about that.
It's fun how proactive you always have to be. I feel even now, like even now as a film fan, it's fun. There's just, you really have to like find this stuff, you have to, when you've seen when you've got through, like, I'm sure I've seen most of the AFI top 100 now. It's like, you really got to be like, what do I look at now? Or what kind of directors do I, that's what's fun. Cause it's just, there always is more. That's what's so amazing.
Always more, dude.
You're
so right.
Just one suggestion before I go, because you guys were talking about Shakespeare. If you haven't yet, check out the 1935 A Midsummer Night's Dream with Mickey Rooney as Puck. I love that production. It's one of my favorites, and it's got one of the best. Yeah, and it's got one of the best Oscar trivia things. It's Hal Moore is the name, and he's the only person. He was a cinematographer. He's the only person in Oscar history to win an Oscar without being nominated. He won in a write-in campaign.
Wow, Hal Moore.
I wonder
Hal
if that
Moore.
I wonder if that can even still happen.
Yeah.
No. They changed the rules after him. After him, they changed the
yeah.
rules. No writing campaigns.
I was hoping I could still get my campaign for Color of Space going. Maybe I still had a shot. I thought we could have started it here on that one.
I know. We could get a
Oh my God.
2,000 votes here and there.
5 days. We've got like 5 days.
Oh my
You
God.
can
That's
do
awesome.
it. All right. Thank you guys. Great to see you guys.
You too, brother. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.
All right, let's bring in our last guest here, Aaron Klister. Aaron, are you ready? Give me a thumbs up. All right, good to go. Aaron is here, hanging out. He's the one that asked you earlier about the next page. What's up, Aaron?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Brendan, it's very nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
I apologize. I'm cooking in here. It's not too loud, is it?
No, we're good. What's up?
Oh, you're good, man. You're
okay, good. I always give John an option. Sir, I would love to ask you maybe about questions. Would you rather talk about Amy Adams or Quentin Tarantino?
Wow, I mean, that's a tough choice. I'll say Tarantino, but I'm a pretty big Amy Adams fan. But all right, I'll say
What
Tarantino.
is your favorite? Because I'm never going to get this opportunity again. What's your favorite Tarantino movie, sir? And just a brief description why.
No, you know what? My favorite Tarantino movie, and again, I imagine that he's one of these guys that years go by, rewatch, it could change. I think my favorite is Inglourious Bastards, and it's because it's the first one I saw. I think that's the biggest thing, is that was actually the first Tarantino I ever saw. Was Inglourious Bastards, and so I love that one. I haven't watched it in a while, but I watched like 2 or 3 times, like right after it came out, as well as seeing in theaters. So I love that one. I just think I love the characters. The opening scene, the way I think it comes together really, really well at the end. All the stuff with Melanie Laurent. But it's been a long time. Like that's one of those ones I haven't watched probably in like maybe 10 years, maybe since like I haven't revisited. So I'd love to revisit it. I'm hoping that the New Beverly will reopen here in LA.
That's right.
But yeah,
I'm in New York, so I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, well, if you're ever in LA, seek it out. If you're ever in LA, seek it out. He owns a theater here called the New Beverly that they show.
I will give you my address, sir, so you can send me a ticket.
I can't. You actually have to buy the ticket.
Yeah, it's $5. It's $5. Don't be cheap.
So
I think you got $5.
Yeah.
It's very cheap. It's very cheap.
Yeah, it's Biker Zombies on Mars. That's what you'll have to watch. But yeah, go ahead. What?
Brendan, I'm so glad I got to talk with you. I love watching on the Schmoedown. You're so pleasant. But if everyone knows me here, I'm just a wacky person. So, Ryko, you're out of your fucking mind for going against the Founding Fathers. Rocha all day. Rocha all day, okay? You're out of your fucking mind for going against him.
This is the Outlaw Nation.
All right.
I love it, Aaron. Thank you.
Anyways, my son is crying his head off.
All right.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Till next time, everybody.
Love you, man. Peace.
That was an experience. That was incredible. Oh my God.
That's my people, bro. That's my people.
That escalated quick.
Ooh. Brit killed a guy. Alan Smithy donated one last thing, and then we'll let you out of here, brother man. He said, "Hi again, Rocha and Brendan. Great to meet you, Brendan. If you were in a singles match against the Outlaw and he spun opponent's choice, what category would you pick for him? Thanks."
You think I'm going to say that live on air with John right there? Are you kidding me? Of course I'm not going to say that, bro. I want a belt. It doesn't mean I don't care anymore, dude.
I feel like
you
should give some indication.
No, John, that is an insane question to ask. No way.
Oh, my people, they coming out.
I'm not retiring, dude. I got some bullets in the chamber. Come on.
It's true. That's a fair point. We'll see what happens. This is a crazy, crazy life. Who knows? Who knows? It could be a crazy year where Brendan and I could be across the table at each other. Would be a lot of fun for sure. All right, Brendan, dude, thank you so much for taking a couple hours to hang out with us, dude. I'm such a fan of yours. as a person. And I remember you coming to see the matches, and I was like, who's this young kid? Who's this kid? And to see what you've kind of built on your own legacy in the Schmoedown, it's been incredible. I was very happy when you guys won the belt. I mean, because you beat corruption, but also because you guys, I know you guys deserved it, because I know how much Bibbs works to be great at the Schmoedown. And, I've kind of grown to really appreciate and respect Bibbs a lot as I've gotten older in the league. And now it's a lot of fun to watch you guys play and see what you guys can bring. So thank you so much.
He's one of these guys that just has that passion, Bibbs is one of these guys that has that passion. And so, it's I definitely, I'm proud for myself, but I'm so proud to have been a part of that legacy for him, that he became had someone who won both. I think that was so awesome for him. And so, I always be happy that I was a part of that for him.
Yeah.
And that he kind of hit the question to win it was pretty special.
For sure. Please, what can you tell people you're doing next? Where can people find you? What do you got going on? Where can people, kind of enjoy the Brendan Meyer experience at this point going forward? Yeah,
so Brendan KJ Meyer, Twitter and Instagram there. I see it's on the bottom. And I'm on this new show, Tribal, that should be debuting at some point. Definitely in Canada. It'll be out sometime in the summer. I don't know exactly when. I did about 4 episodes of that. And then which was fun. I got to squeeze that in when I was back home.
Can you give a brief description of what it is?
It's a cool show. So it's in its 2nd season. It's on APTN in Canada. I'm sure it'll be somewhere in the States. You know how these things get picked up, but it's about it's a kind of a crime procedural show, but it's about the sort of tensions between the kind of a tribal cop who works in the reservations of the Indian tribes in Alberta. So, and kind of her, she's this, new kind of tribal cop, and her interaction with this other guy who's he's the kind of chief of police of that area, and their sort of interplay as they solve crimes together. And it shines a light on a lot of those really relevant issues that faces the community in Canada and stuff like that. So it's really cool the way they kind of sprinkle that stuff in. So that was a really cool thing to get to be a part of, and some really great actors and stuff. So that was fun. And then I did this short film called Delivery, which hopefully I'm finishing up this month that I'm hoping to I'll probably try to share it around to some festivals, submit around, see if I can get in somewhere there. But then also I'll probably try to make it available at some point for people to see. So I'll definitely let you guys know. Maybe John will see it before. Maybe you'll see.
I would love to.
Yeah, of course. No, I'd love to share it with you and some Schmoedown peeps for sure. But I'm almost done that. And so that was cool. It was fun actually. It was a really great cast. My friend Brandon Perea, who's he was in the OA with me, was in it. My friend Karis, who's she's actually on Ray Donovan. She's the daughter on Ray Donovan, was in it. And this other guy, Nick Fink, who had a small part in Judas and the Black Messiah too. So all my friends who are in it are actually really, really successful. So I had a really great group of 3 actors who were in it, and so it was really fun. So I'm excited for people to see it. It was fun. It was, that's I guess the advantage of working, the people that you can call and be your friends are accomplished. they all had to slide down to work with me, but then
please
they come back up. But it was awesome. It was fun.
That's great. That's so great.
So I'm hopeful that'll be a fun thing for people to see, hopefully at some point next week.
Awesome. Well, we wish you continued success in everything you're doing, brother. And certainly in the Schmoedown, I know we'll cross paths at some point down the road. But everyone, please go and patronize everything Brendan is doing. Go and give it some love. Go and watch it. Go and share it. Go do everything you need to do there. And follow him on his social media. Please give him some love there as well. And I will let you go, man. Go and have a great rest of the night. I got to keep going here for a few more minutes, do some plugs and what have you. So thanks for taking the time, Brendan. It's been great to catch up with you, my friend.
Same, John. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Anytime.
Much love. Peace.
Right,
see you, man.
bye,
all right, there was Brendan Meyer joining us for a couple hours here, having a little fun with us on the Outlaw Nation channel. Really appreciate him doing so. That was great. Sean, I'm going to bring Sean Barreto back in. How are you, Sean? Sorry I couldn't bring you on in the middle, but thanks for bringing people on. And they think, how are you feeling? How are you doing, brother? Are you okay?
Hanging in as always. It was a great show. Just want to thank Brendan for coming on. It was a great conversation about his acting career and his career in the Schmoedown, and that was a very interesting question that he wouldn't answer about what he would put on the wheel for you. I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm curious what the answer is.
There's another question Tushka sent. He said, next question, Brendan, what are your weaknesses so that opponents can target you? So I was like, hey, we're not going to put that up there. So
well, you don't have to necessarily tell the truth. I mean, it's not holding it to anything.
Good to have fun.
Either way. Sure. But it was a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Right on. Tushka did send in one last Streamlabs, and maybe Brendan will watch it later. He said, Brendan, have you seen the Red Road? Or Red Road, rather. If not, it may be some great insight into other series based around tribal police and relationships. So I should maybe hand that off maybe to my girlfriend. She's half Native American. Maybe she might want to watch Red Road. And I think Jason Momoa is in that, so he's probably going to be half shirtless. Oh, he's probably shirtless on it. So there we go. I'll get to watch
Chances
that.
are. Chances are.
All right, Sean, I'll let you go. Thanks so much for producing the show tonight. We'll wrap up here, and I'm going to head off and grab some dinner. Thank you, dude.
All good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Outlaw Nation. Much love to all of you. Thanks for the Streamlabs and Super Chats. And most of all, thanks for making Brendan feel so welcome on our show. It's been awesome to be doing the show for as long as we have, and having great guests coming on and hanging out with us is always fun. Next week, his tag team partner, William Bibiani, will be on the show as my guest. And then after that, Wendy Lee will be coming on, and we'll be announcing our new show that is going to be debuting here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Can't give you a name or a preview just yet, but that's how. But that's going to be happening, and hopefully be lining up some more guests as we go into May, June, and July, and things get crazy. And I'm trying to get Dan Murrow to come on back. We'll see if we can put down our swords against each other and maybe hang out for a couple of hours a little bit later as the summer season kicks off and more movies are coming out. It'd be great to touch base with Dan and see how he's feeling about how things are going there in the world of movies as well. Hope you all are doing well as well. Hope you all are taking the time that you need. You know, things are slowly going back to whatever we call normal now. People are going back to offices. Sadly, we're seeing an increase in these shootings. We're seeing an increase in the violence out there. Sadly, it feels like the worst parts of going back to normal are happening, as well as some of the better parts of going back to normal, where people are getting to hang out with their family and friends again, hugs, reconnect, have a beer. All those things that we took for granted before COVID now are starting to happen with more frequency. So I hope more of you, or all of you, are on that side of the fence, and I hope none of you are feeling any of the negative effects of everybody coming back and coming, to some semblance of normalcy for that sake. So, and like I said, I'm on my path to get vaccinated. I hope everybody watching or listening is going to get vaccinated as well, and get yourself in a good position to keep going forward with your life. And I will end the show as I end every show. Please, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year, I'd like you to do it. You never know what's waiting for you on the other side. And the Outlaw Nation grows bigger by having you in it, by having your voice in it, by having your energy and your presence as a part of the nation as we build this thing from the ground up. And I appreciate every second you spend on the Outlaw Nation, no matter what you're watching. It means the world to me. And, if anybody can serve it as an example, that it's, that the push to keep going, the push to survive yet another day can be a surprise, can lead to a bunch of surprises in your life. I almost took my life, as I say, in 2016. It was very close to ending it, and a friend stepped up and saved my life. And look at everything that's happened since. It's been amazing and incredible to experience this life since that moment. So I want to encourage all of you. I know it gets tough out there. I know the days get dark, and especially after this verdict, it is a glimmer of hope. But the reactions to it, we'll see how that plays itself out. Please find your time to just kind of recalibrate, recenter yourself, and move forward in a positive direction for your life. Baby steps, huge steps, middle steps, they all matter as long as you're moving forward to into a positive direction for your life. I love you madly. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And don't forget all the great content coming up this week from the Outlaw Nation channel. Geek Buddies tomorrow. Get some trailer reactions tomorrow. Got Impolite Truths on Thursday. And then on Friday, I have that fun thing that I'm doing for nerdsvote.com that I hope all of you will get a chance to watch on Instagram Live. All right. Much love to all of you. Be well. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you next time. And like I said, Bibiani next time. All right. Be well. I love you. Peace.